Please rise for silent invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Foley?
Here.
Councilmember Tremont?
Here.
Councilmember Bastian?
Here.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Here.
Mayor Burnett?
Here. We have a quorum. All of us are here. Can I get an approval for the agenda for the evening?
Motion to approve the agenda for the evening.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve the agenda for the evening.
Bless you.
And a comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have the approval for the agenda for the evening. Consent agenda. Public comments on anything that's on the consent agenda. Come on up, Robert.
Yeah, because he's not here yet.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. With regard to C8B, Brightly Software, and C8C, Blue Beam Global Services. The first one, C8B, Bright Light, or Brightly Software, $21,850 to extend it 90 days due to an unforeseen staffing issue. And I could not clearly identify whose staff it was, whether it was city staff or Bright House or Brightly staff. And you're paying for 40 custom reports. And I would be concerned about if you're purchasing a software package, that it does not have the flexibility built into it that you can write your own programs, your own reports, get your own products. Then you are really making yourself a captive audience at the contractor's mercy. And I don't know why else you would have an IT group except for that kind of purpose, to create your own reports. But and then the 8CB or 8CC Bluebeam, I just can't understand. It's a plan review, and it almost sounds like you're paying somebody else as a consultant to tell you what the first guy did. And that's really confusing. So those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Robert.
Anyone else on the consent agenda? There being none, I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and proper seconds. We'll see which one Robin gave it to. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda has passed. Special awards reports, recognition proclamations, update from the Pittman Law Group, who we just renewed. Come on up, Sean.
Hi there. Good, how are you? You're welcome. Ready to go.
You want to take that? Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager. How are you? Thank you all for having us. It seems like that road from Tallahassee gets a little long. It gets a little longer every time we make the trip. I know that's not true, but you know, if you use Waze, it takes you in different directions, and
It's the
just-
traffic in the LPG area.
it just never seems to be the same. But thank you guys. Thank you all for having us. Nice to be back. And first of all, thank you all for your help doing this. Oh,
Oh, got it. Sorry, go ahead.
okay.
Pardon.
All right.
Not to be loud.
Thank you all for the opportunity to serve you. This past session was a pretty interesting session. As you know, there were quite a bit of just huge issues in Tallahassee. And I say you know it because many of you came up there and walked the halls with us. But you know there was, oh, I'm sorry. Evan Steinberg, y'all, who we work closely together. We had to ride 5 hours together.
It's funny how he does that to you when we're up there too, Evan.
So we don't even want to stand next to each other right now. We've been close in a car. But, we dealt with redistricting issues, election reform issues, relocation of immigrants issues. We dealt with limits to abortion, and power of local governments were some of the most controversial issues that were dealt with. Most significantly, I think, though, was the money. There was so much of it. And truly, when you think about this post-pandemic era, there was just significant amount of money for the governor and the presiding officers in the House and the Senate to effectuate and fund their goals. And we wanted to come and talk to you about a few of them. You guys read, so there's a lot we could go into, but I want to say that when you looked at it, the most bills filed in a long time, in ever, I think. I mean, 3,735 bills filed. There was 1,896 amendments. 4,324 votes taken during this session, and 285 bills passed this session, which is still more in the last decade. And then 1,729 local appropriation projects filed this year. So quite a lot going on. We know that as we talk about all the things that actually happened and the things that took place, the record things that took place, the thing that stayed the same, I think, is you all had great representation. And I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about in Representative Leak, and I'm talking about in Senator Wright. I tell you, one of the greatest parts of this job is the fact that we get a chance to work so closely with those gentlemen who represent this area so very well. So, and I know you guys see them here and you see them there, and I assume their love and passion for Port Orange is consistent, because I can tell you up there it is very robust, and I appreciate working with them. We had a total budget of $112.1 billion. This was a 10.4 increase over the last year, significant. 43.7 billion in state general revenue, 29.1 billion in state trust fund revenue, 39.2 billion in federal trust fund revenue. Florida Forever, which you all are very familiar with, was allocated 186.7 million. Full funding for FDOT's 5-year work program, Mr. Manager. That's something to pay close attention to. Local transportation initiatives, 498.6 million. Visit Florida. We know that our tourism funds a lot of what we get to enjoy. They allocated 50 million to keep that going. And Enterprise Florida, they allocated 12 million to keep that program going and robust. Those of you who like my wife, who care about the arts, culture, and historical resources, quite a bit of money allocated there as well. The cultural museum programs, 73.2 million. Historical preservation programs, 31.1 million. African American culture programs, 30.3 million. Affordable housing, SHIP and SAIL, both funded at top dollars this time. SAIL at 53.3 million, and SHIP at $209.5 million. So a huge budget with a lot of high points. You can see some of the areas here. These are the top areas. I want to give you a little bit of background. And there were some areas I thought I should tell you more about as they fit in some of those areas. Compensation and benefits. Minimum wage increased to $15 per hour, and a 5.38% increase for state employees to address inflation. One thing I think you should know. Those of you who care about education, teacher salary increase allocation, $250 million increase that brought that total to $800 million, and bringing beginning salaries, minimum salaries for classroom teachers to $47,500. That's significant. I know with things going on around the country in our schools, safety is an issue, so I thought I ought to tell you that there was a $30 million increase for a total of $210 million for school safety officer and school safety initiatives. Reading allocation, reading instruction allocation, $40 million increase, brought it to a total of $170 million to provide comprehensive reading instruction. Very important. Student financial aid, those of you who have kids getting ready to go to college, $994 million, with 620 of those dollars, 620 million of those dollars going to Bright Futures, which is a very important program trying to keep our best students in Florida. I mentioned housing, so I won't go back over that. I mentioned Visit Florida, I won't mention that again. Broadband Opportunity Grant Program, $400 million. You got areas that having broadband issues, these dollars are in DEO. We can go after them, Mr. Manager. 8 or 9 sales tax holidays. Y'all want to know those? I'm going to tell you those. Okay. 1, back to school holiday, July 25th to August 7th. Disaster preparedness holiday. We missed that, May 28th to June 10th. You didn't get that, you missed that this year. Okay. Energy Star Appliance holiday, July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Freedom Week holiday, July 1st to July 7th. Tools for skilled workers, September 3rd to September 9th. And Mr. Mayor, we'll give you a list of these so that you have them. Baby and toddler diaper holiday and clothing, July 1st, 2022,
A little late to
2022.
get my wife excited about that.
Well, you got a whole year. So there's that. You could try that again. Children Books holiday, May 14th to August 14th. Impact resistance windows and doors. That's another one that lasts a year, July 1st this year to June 30th next year.
Great, I already did that too.
You already did that. There you go.
A year and a half ago.
So those are high points on the budget. I did want to, and we know y'all got a long agenda. We won't take a lot, but I thought that those are some things you need to know. There's some other things I think you need to know, but I'm going to ask Evan quickly if you'll go through some of the policies and some of the preemption, so there's not many, but you should. Okay, thank you.
Hope all is well. Good seeing you all again. We went through a little bit of the policies and preemptions that were high level that we think the legislature spent majority of their time on. As you see, all the bills have been, for the most part, signed or vetoed besides one, but every bill has been sent to the governor for sign. So it should be happening in the next 2 weeks that our session will be wrapping up. HB 3 was a huge law enforcement initiative by the House that brought minimum wages to $50,000 per year, or a 5% increase, whichever was higher. As you might have read, HB 5 was the abortion bill regarding 15 weeks. HB 7 was individual freedom regarding critical race theory, mandated training by corporations and schools. 741 was net metering. This one the governor decided to veto.
Thank
it was
you,
regarding,
Governor.
yeah. It was regarding changing the schedule reductions to net metering. And then HB 1557 was parental rights in education. That one was also signed. That is regarding parental notifications and changes to student wellness, as well as age-appropriate discussion regarding gender identity and sexual orientation. 1796 is one that has yet to be determined. One of the most hot topic ones is dissolution of marriage regarding a 50-50 split in cases when it comes to children, as well as potential to phase out alimony payments for when you retire. The language can be a little bit confusing on that one, so definitely be sure to pay attention to the fine language. 2508 is environmental resources. That was requiring the South Florida Water Management District to notify the legislature and governor of any changes to water distribution in South Florida. 1501 was the inflation fund. That was $1 billion inflation fund the governor decided to veto. So when we talked about the $3 billion in vetoes, this was a huge part of it. 7065 was one of the most bipartisan bills that the legislature had, was the Responsible Fatherhood Initiative. That creates a grant program with DJJ, the Department of Juvenile Justice, and Department of Children and Families for enhancing the relationship between fathers and children. And then Sean previously talked about 7071, which is a tax package. And as he mentioned, there was 2 additional special sessions on redistricting and special districts, and on property insurance and the incident and surf side. Going into just some of the preemptions, as you know, Tallahassee likes to preempt a lot of times. In terms of ones that failed, that would be 280, which was one of the hot topic ones regarding attorney fees, and making sure that when you enact an ordinance, you have a business impact estimate on what that will impact the businesses in your area. 512 was vacation rentals, which was going to create a statewide system for licensing and preempting any local entity from preempting or prohibiting vacation rentals. 994 was another hot topic one that comes around every so often. This was also creating a statewide system to license pet stores and prohibiting ordinances regarding breeding, purchasing, or sale of dogs or pets. 1124 is ensuring that no local government can make a minimum wage that is higher than the state or federal minimum wage. And in terms of what passed, 6020 was the Local Business Protection Act. That one has yet to be signed by the governor. That is also in queue, so will be signed in the next 14 days. That is regarding claims to damages unless a local entity amends their ordinance. 518.
Let me stop you.
No,
Sorry.
you go.
But just, y'all remember that that's the one where if you do something, right, and a business decides that you are 15% or more, you have impacted their revenue negatively 15% or more, they can file a lawsuit against you. That one passed. And that was the better of the two, of the 2 Senate President bills. Yes.
So if you have a city, say your bar hours are 3 a.m. and you want to roll them back to 2 a.m., if it infects some of those businesses to that effect, and they've been in business more than 3 years.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, Miami Beach was one of the case studies for that as a good example, since they just had a referendum on closing bars earlier.
Yep.
So, 518 is regarding pruning, trimming, and removal of trees, that if there is an unacceptable risk, then a city cannot prevent that from happening. And then real property rights is regarding parking lots, that a city cannot restrict an owner from using their property for parking. And that is a high-level overview of preemptions and policy.
and just 2 more minutes, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind. Just a couple things that I just think y'all ought to also be aware of. And that is a regulation on smoking by counties and municipalities.
HB 105.
There you go. They lessened, I guess, the preemption that allows for counties and cities to regulate smoking on public beaches and public parks. So just be aware of that. Another one I thought you just did that one. Homestead property tax exemption for hometown heroes. This one's good because it provides an additional $50,000 ad valorem exemption for a list of other folks that are in workforce jobs that are considered hometown heroes. I won't read all those, but you guys would want to know those. And let's see, the law enforcement CS House Bill 3 provides law enforcement agencies an additional tools to bolster recruitment. It's basically giving them raises and giving them scholarships to go after higher education. It's a great thing. Increase your sheriff, got a $5,000 raise in Volusia. And campaign finance. If you're in local government long enough, you remember long ago there was a regulation that came about that said you cannot spend taxpayer dollars to inform, not to inform, inform's the right word, to persuade citizens to feel a certain way about an issue. They did allow you to inform. Well, there was a bill that just passed that you got to be real careful even doing that now. It was underneath the campaign finance rules. So if you're going to send things out to citizens, be aware that there's a bill now that could get you in trouble if it goes too far in information. Legal notices, a good thing here. The legislature expanded the number of newspapers in which local governments could run required notices. I think this one says you can also, it doesn't have to be just newspapers, right? Am I right about that? That saves you money. If you own a newspaper, you don't like it, but just telling you that. Anyway, thought you ought to know about those. I don't think I'm missing one. And that is, and then the last thing is, of course, all of you came up several times, including the manager, and helped with some of these substantive issues that you were concerned about, but of course the appropriations dollars that you were able to receive. And I won't talk much about that because I know your legislators are going to come and present that to you, but just want to thank you for always answering the call and coming up to speak to the president, the Senate president, the speaker, speaking to the staff, speaking to the chairs of committees in order to bring your money home. And this was a good year to bring it home. And even with all the money that seemed to be available, there were a lot of vetoes. What, $3 billion worth of vetoes? A lot of cities.
Vetoed 2.7% of the budget,
Yeah.
and that was after that veto, it was still 10% higher than anything they've ever spent before.
Right. So you got it through Tallahassee, and the governor signed it. So I know that your senator and and Representative Leak, Senator Wright, Representative Leak will come and talk more about that with everyone. But just from on behalf of my team, thank you guys for the opportunity to serve you.
Sean, appreciate everything that you do for us, and you do a terrific job of getting us before faces we cannot see here locally. And that
That's
is the one thing about hiring a lobbyist. I mean, we've seen the results from dollars brought home for flood control projects, infrastructure, things like this year on year out. And I think that's why we have no problem continuing to contract with you, because you help us bring home what we need to do. But we can see our own legislators. We get to meet with them locally. But what a lobbyist does, he gets us in front of people that we would never be able to see or get meetings with in Tallahassee otherwise. Committee people, decision makers, sometimes administrators in the governor's office. That's invaluable, and I just want to let you know we really and truly appreciate it. Now, the setting us up and breaking us up with 3 meetings at the same time this time, that was fun, because I was trying to hit all 3 of them, and I almost did.
Yeah, well, you come up there and you come to work, and that's what makes our
And
job
you put us
easy.
to
So
work.
thank
We
you.
appreciate your ability to do that.
Councilman, thank you for, you come up quite a bit, and he always says, hey, what can I do? And I always call the mayor and say, hey, Chase is on his way. But all of you, thank you so much for coming up and giving us another reason to go and speak to important people, particularly staff. We have clients sometimes that all they want to come up and they want to talk to the speaker, they want to talk to the president, they want to talk to the governor. And all those people are really important, but you know what? They got a lot of people they're meeting with, and they're making a lot of promises and a lot of assurances. We try to make sure that you meet with the people who if they write it down, it means something. Right?
$3 billion
And they're
in
not
vetoes.
always elected.
Let's just let
Yeah.
this sink in. $3 billion in vetoes. That's a lot of local projects the governor said no to. We brought home $750,000 in infrastructure projects that passed the governor's scrutiny in a year like this. And certainly, everybody up here, and I'm very grateful for our staff for putting together a project that passed that muster, but I appreciate you guys for helping us engineer it and get it through.
Well, you got great members in Senator Wright and Representative Lee. But you're also recognized throughout Tallahassee for having great management of the funds that they send to you. They trust that you're going to do the right things with the dollars that they send down. And that, I can't say that for every government, but I can tell you, your reputation up there is, it precedes you, and congratulations.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Evan,
Can we even leave?
You can leave.
No.
Be
We're
careful.
gonna ride back to Tallahassee.
Safe travels.
Evan,
Safe
keep
travels.
them straight, okay?
Oh, that's right.
There you go.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Take care.
Everybody.
Public participation, agended presentation from Chris Smith, Government Affairs Director for Metronet.
Thank you all for having me this evening. Mayor, City Manager, members of council, residents of Port Orange. My name is Chris Smith. I am the Director of Government Affairs for a company called Metronet. And so we've recently approached the city to talk to you guys about a multi-million-dollar private investment to put 100% fiber optic infrastructure within the city of Port Orange. So who are we? Who is Metronet? We're a customer-focused fiber optic and phone provider. We've been in business since 2005. We're currently serving 250 plus communities, and we're in 15 states. And so I think the big question for everybody is why another provider, or why is fiber better? So I can speak to quality of life and I can speak to being future-proof, but I think that the most important thing that we've all learned in the past couple years, how crucial solid, reliable internet is to our homes and our businesses. A lot of us get the opportunity to work from home, we school from home. The way we watch TV is even changing. A lot of us stream. So Metronet is a company that's able to do that through a 100% fiber optic infrastructure build. We consider that to be a better service. It provides a better choice for residents of Port Orange, and it's a better value. Another thing that makes us very unique as a company is that our speeds will actually be symmetrical. So you'll upload at the same speed that you download. We offer gigabit service, which most of you know is over 1,000 megabits. And we're recognized by industry leaders, both for being a good quality product and for a lot of our safe practices during construction. So the key thing and the main reason I'm here tonight is to talk to you guys about how that really needs to look. So the first key is a partnership with the city. I mentioned this is a private investment made by us, but we understand how crucial and how important it is to be in communication with you guys. And I mean you guys by meaning the city of Port Orange. So both residents, letting them know what's going on during the construction process, being in contact with the city through permitting, working through how that build needs to occur, and then also how is that going to look overall. It is construction, right? So we do restore as we go. We do communicate with residents. I will also be available to you guys to answer any questions that you have. We have reporting in order to be transparent so that we can talk to you about how the process goes. And then the other thing that's great about our company is that as we're going to build, we're going to release. So as we build a unique or build an area, we'll then release it for people to be able to sign up. So again, I talked a little bit about that partnership. Again, I won't be able to stress enough to you tonight how important it is to communicate. One of the ways that we'll do that is through resident communication. And this is a little bit, we call it a 3-part resident communication system. And it starts out about 30 to 45 days prior to us going into an area. And we will mail a letter that looks similar to the one that you see. It's a little bit about who we are as a company, how people can contact us, where's the work going to occur. Maybe you've got irrigation lines, maybe you've got underground dog fences. This is how you can let us know, and we'll partner with you on that to prevent and mitigate any issues with restoration. We also talk a little bit about, what's our pricing and what we're offering. And I know not everyone reads the strange mail that comes to their home through the mail. So the next piece that we'll do is we'll follow that up about 7 to 10 days prior to going into that same area with a postcard. It's usually neon in color. And we'll say, hey, construction's coming. Here's how to contact us directly. So if the postcard and the letter gets missed, the third piece that we place is a yard sign or a turf sign. You can tell it's about the size as if you had your yard sprayed. And it just says, construction's underway, it's Metronet, here's how to contact us. Also, in addition to that, we place neighborhood yard signs. So those would be about the size of a realtor sign, if you can imagine that. In densely populated neighborhoods, we'll place these on corners. So as you're driving in and out, you'll know Metronet's coming, construction's gonna happen. If I have a question, here's the website and here's the 800 number that they can contact us at. So speaking to construction, it's important to note construction is only going to happen within the existing utility easement or right-of-way. So we will not have permission to be in people's private property, but we will be in that utility easement. If you're like me, and most people are, you don't know where that utility easement's located. If you look around, we'll follow the existing placement of other utilities. So if you see pedestals, an electric box, that's where we will be doing the same work. We group our projects in an organized group of about 300 to 500 homes and businesses. Our tribal language on that is called an LCP, but that's where we'll focus. Our production will consist of aerial crews, underground crews, and we'll have a member of Metronet that supervises around 3 to 5 of those crews. So a little bit about the website that I keep mentioning. We actually have a dedicated construction website. And why that's important for you in Port Orange and for you, for your constituents, is that, and I think the gentleman earlier touched on this, the city shouldn't be an advocate for Metronet, but we should help you be more informative to residents. So this is not a place for them to sign up for service. This is simply to find out about construction, where it's occurring, questions about that construction. Maybe we restored an area and it wasn't to that resident's satisfaction. When they call your office, you can feel confident directing them to this website. There's also a couple of videos that I'll touch on here in a second that talk about what to expect, what an easement looks like. Our commitment to your residents of Port Orange, anybody that reaches out to us through the 800 number or through this website will get a ticket number, and we will respond to all tickets within 24 hours or 1 business day. This is a little more that I was touching on. There are a couple of YouTube videos. They're less than 2 minutes each, but it just lets people feel confident and understand what's occurring. Again, on that restoration process, it's important to note that we restore as we go. So about 24 to 48 hours after we start the project. I don't want to minimize, it is construction. So it can look very messy, and so we want to reassure people that we're here to restore and put things back the way we found them. Another thing is that our crews for Metronet will be very identifiable, and this goes back to that communication and partnership with the city. We'll put signage on our vehicles that'll say Metronet or contractor for Metronet. All crew members will be required to wear a picture badge with their first and last name. They'll also be wearing safety vests with the Metronet logo. And then we'll partner with you as a city to provide a list each day of where we estimate crews are going to be. So on Main Street tomorrow, we plan for the following crews to be working, and here's their contact numbers, so that we can, again, always be in communication and partnership. I mentioned restoration will happen in about 48 hours, and that we restore as we go. And then I also talked about anyone that does contact us with any questions or concerns will be responded to within 24 hours or 1 business day. This is a picture of the post-construction type infrastructure you can expect to see. One of the things that I think we do really well at Metronet is we try to be minimally invasive. So instead of those large pedestals that stick out of the ground, we mount everything flush to the ground so that you can mow over it rather than around it. So the picture on the right is what we call a flower pot, and that's how, when someone signs up for services, we would connect to that. Or there's an aerial picture on the left, and in the center is what we call a vault, and that would connect the flower pots. And so lastly, again, we want to be a partner with the community of Port Orange, and so this is a little about our community commitment, how we'll be hiring local folks when we come into the area. We'll have local involvement in local events. And we like to think that we're able to provide just another choice. And this is my contact information. So if you have questions or I can assist you in any way, this is also my cell number. I encourage you to reach out to me at any time. But what questions can I answer for you this evening?
I think we're good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Please.
I got one. What's the expected start date, and then how long to like roll it out citywide or county, or just ballpark?
Sure. So we estimate we could start construction as soon as October
Okay.
this fall. And we're estimating probably around 12 months, but that could change. We're still in the design process.
For the entire city. Okay.
Most of the city's footprint, and again, I'll say that because we're in the design process.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
You guys say you're the largest privately owned ISP.
Yes, sir.
What's the closest city that you have to us currently?
So we're building the surrounding communities. We've announced Daytona and the surrounding, but we're actually in construction in Palm Coast.
Okay.
And the gentleman that was just here, Tallahassee, we started that, and we're nearing completion on that, and that was about a 2-year project.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff for like a Wire 3 or something. Is that a competitor, or do you guys own that? Is it like a sub brand of what you guys do, or complete?
Not affiliated with Metronet.
Okay, I was curious. I'd seen that a couple of weeks
Sure.
ago, maybe.
Sure.
All right, cool.
Is Metronet going to do this in every city in Volusia County?
We would love to. What we're doing now is we're reaching out to cities like Port Orange. We're gauging your interest. Is fiber going to be something that you guys are interested in? Again, I touched very briefly on this, but I'm someone who works from home, and it would be nice if I could use my camera at the same time that I use my video or my audio, right? So I think we're starting to recognize more and more how crucial good internet is to a community.
I use internet every day for work. I mean,
Absolutely,
I work with
right?
people out of New York, LA, and Nashville, so I'm constantly on FaceTime or something to that effect. So there's no doubt that the internet has brought us all closer together the further away we are. So
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah, I think it's good to have some more options available
Yeah,
as well.
If nothing else, we're going to bring a choice, and we believe it's a better choice, but it's a good choice.
All right.
thank you.
Thank you all.
And Port Orange Railway Society. You're up, Larry.
Can everybody see that?
Let's hope so. If they don't, they'll have to go see it on site.
Yeah, the idea was to make it big, so hopefully everyone can read it. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager. I want to thank everyone for having me here so I can speak about what we affectionately call our little depot. This year marks the 130th anniversary of the railroad service to Port Orange. Before the railway, Florida was a frontier, the only frontier state east of the Mississippi. The railway created the first land and tourist boom on the east coast of Florida. Now, our society, the Port Orange Railway Society, formed in 2019, and the idea was that we would help the city restore this depot that we have down there on Herbert Street and preserve all of its history. And it does have some history, as you can see on the sign that we're presenting to the city here today. Now, the depot was built by the St. John's and Halifax Railway before there was even an FEC. And it is now the second oldest building, FEC railroad building still existing. So it is quite a gem. And the Volusia County Historic Preservation Board has designated it to be an endangered historic property. And so it's something that we really need to pay some attention to. And as you can see on the sign here, it is on the National Register of Historic Places. It's been there since 1998. Now, our society, as I mentioned, we are here to reconstruct the history of the depot and educate the public about that history. And to that purpose, we have been attending shows and events and collecting materials that help us better understand the depot and its history. And as a result, we were asked by Parks and Recreation to provide a history for the depot to be placed there in Port Orange Depot Park. And so we created this sign. It has the highlights of the history and some of the better old photos of the original passenger and freight house, as you can see on the sign. But actually, our plan would be to put a museum in the depot that would include more history than what's obviously on the sign. And originally, I planned to stop talking at this point because I was just going to present the sign, and it is my pleasure to give the sign to the city from our organization. But something came up, and this is it. This is caboose number 806. And for those you aren't familiar with the FEC, there are only 3 cabooses left from the FEC, and 2 are in museums. One's down at the Gold Coast Museum next to Metro Zoo in Miami. That's the 715 that they just restored. And one is up in Tennessee. I don't remember exactly which.
Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum.
There.
It's displayed as a Tennessee caboose.
Okay, and the 806 is the only steel caboose left from the railroad. And what it was originally a fast freight boxcar that was converted to a caboose. So it's probably the last caboose still existing that was used on the railroad. Eventually what happened is railroads went to end-of-train devices and they no longer needed cabooses. And we have really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to purchase this caboose. I don't think anything like this will be available in my lifetime again. So it's our society intention to purchase the car and make arrangements to move it, but we need permission from the city to put it at Port Orange Depot Park and make that its new home. So that's what we're here asking tonight to do. Okay. And we hope that you would accept it. It is a really rare car, and I don't think it will be on the market very long because of that fact, being the last FEC caboose and certainly the last one available that we could purchase. And so our idea here would be to create a unique venue there at Port Orange Depot Park. And what we would want to do is restore the depot to its 1939 appearance, and that's the last time that the railroad did any major modification of the depot. And we would like to place a museum inside the depot that would tell the story of the railroad in our community. And in addition, as we move down the road and we get further down in time, we would like to acquire what's called a critter. And a critter is a small locomotive that can move single cars. And we would like to create a rolling display where we could roll the caboose in and out of a shed on the north part of the property. See, one of the advantages of us having left the depot there is we have that big lot, a lot more room than if we had moved it down by the park.
Yeah.
So we're very fortunate. The other advantage of having it there at the park is you really get the sensation of trains going by there when you're standing at the depot. And for a lot of people who really don't care about the history, they don't care about, Port Orange that much, but they might be rail fans who want to come and see the trains roll by the depot. So that's something to keep in mind. And by having what we're planning basically, if you think about it, here's what we would have. Right now we have a historic building. And it really is, there's only a handful of those left that were from Henry Flagler's lifetime that are still around, original ones, especially ones that still look kind of like a depot. Okay, so we would have a very rare building. If we added the caboose and we put a museum in the building, then we would have a destination. And if we, down the road, were able to get wheels running and move the caboose in and out of the shed, we would have an experience. And this thing would be a great project. And also, doing all that would allow the caboose to be maintained in better condition. And it would also help us to better interpret the railroad operations in history. And I think it would also increase interest in membership in keeping that property up, because you would have members who would want to come and maintain the equipment and operate the thing. So that's part of the appeal. And it would just be better for the caboose to be able to put it inside, and it's better for the caboose, like a car, to keep it moving. So that's our plan. Now, if we move forward and we purchase the caboose, there are some requirements that we would need from the city. First of all, we'd like to use the city logo in our fundraising, to raise funds to pay off the caboose. In addition, we would, as far as raising money for the depot itself, we would ask the city to match any donations that we were able to raise for it. Thirdly, we might need help from city officials in negotiating with the railroad. In fact, they might want to hear from our mayor or other officials in preparing this project. So basically, that's what I'm here to tell you. We have the possibility to have in Port Orange 2 really rare pieces of railroad history, something that will bring people to our community from across the east coast of Florida. And I believe that if we are able to create this project, we'll have something that generations to come will cherish, and that this will become a symbol of our city. Now, before I conclude, I do want to thank a few people. I want to thank our sign committee, some of whom are here tonight, and also our members and our supporters, who some are here tonight also. I want to thank Parks and Recreation for not only repairing the depot, including the roof, but also making some improvements at the depot. I mean, repairing that roof really helped because it saved our 1894 passenger floor that's on the north end from further damage. And I want to thank all of you for hearing me tonight. And we have the chance to put a really great venue here in Port Orange. And if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
One quick
Sure.
question. I'd like for there to be review before I would give any answer as to what my approval for anything. But is there a time frame on your purchase?
I mean, frankly, we're ready to make a bid now, but obviously, if the city needs to review something, we'll work with you. I mean, we can't put it there without your permission, but The problem is if we wait too long, it might be purchased by someone else. Like I say, it is an extremely rare car. I mean, as far as the depot, I mean, what I'm thinking as far as for the whole project as a time frame, I'm thinking,
I was just interested
okay,
in
just for
timing
the
of
caboose.
purchase, yeah.
Okay.
Larry, I tell you, I hope everybody has something that they are as passionate about as you are this.
Okay.
It brings me so much joy to see somebody come in and care about something the way you guys care about this, you know, the society and the way you care about that building and the history. It's really something to
You
admire.
can tell he's having fun.
Oh,
yeah,
no, I love it, and I mean,
I
we-
hope it is fun for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I've come to a few of the meetings, and you know, we got to see the inside of the depot myself recently, and really enjoyed it. What I'm curious about with the car is, what even price tag lands on that?
Okay, the cheap part is buying the car. It's $12,500. The expensive part is moving it, but we're fortunate in a sense. Now, this car was part of the wreck train, and that included there was a tanker, there was a boxcar, a steam crane, and a tool car, which was a converted sleeper. And it was setting down in New Smyrna for many years. Then it was picked up by a private nonprofit, and they weren't able to restore it. So now it ended up getting moved over to U.S. Sugar south of Okeechobee near Clewiston, and that's where we would be moving it from. But the U.S. Sugar wants that wreck train out of there, so they're selling each of the cars individually over there. So I'm estimating about 12. If I bought it, I'd make an offer for $12,500, and then we would estimate a total of $35,000 to get it over here. And what we would do is either we would put it on rail, move it by rail, which is on rail right now. It'd have to be tested, especially brake tested, but we know it rolled in the last 3 years. And it'd have to come from U.S. Sugar up to probably the FEC yard, and then move it by truck from there. And what you do is, you take the crane and you take the body off the trucks, and you move the body and the trucks separately. And that's how you would move it up to the depot. Now you'd have to have 50 foot of track at the park there in order to set the caboose on, even if you did just the static display. So we would be budgeting for all that probably $35,000. And then the other alternative would be to put it on the truck down at U.S. Sugar and truck it all the way up directly to Fort Orange. Gotcha. And one possibility we might be looking at is maybe having the FEC, if they want to do, I don't know if they would do it, but paint and do some of the work up there and paint the exterior. It does have a few issues, but it is in pretty good shape.
Okay. When we get to council comments, if one of you guys wants to make a request of staff to look into what we have to do, you can, but we'll have to do that under that part of the agenda.
Any other questions?
What's the rough dimensions on the caboose?
I just know it's a 40-foot caboose.
Okay.
It's a little bit, you'll notice it's a little bit taller than a standard bay window caboose.
Mm-hmm.
They were made lower to get under lower bridges and stuff. You notice the bay windows there don't go to the top. So it was actually a real boxcar that they made this from. But it does have the original interior.
And is your thought a section of track that would parallel the track there now?
Yeah, we
on
have
the
to be
property?
careful because the way the right-of-way is,
Right.
it comes up almost to the west side of the building.
Yeah.
So we would probably put my idea would be to put a piece of track on the east side of the building. And if we had what we really wanted, when we rolled it out of the shed, it would roll up to a platform right next to the depot, and then we'd have wheelchair access on that platform, so they couldn't go into the car, but handicapped folks could go up to the car and look in the windows and see the restored car. So that's the best we could do with giving them access.
And you also said sections of track in a shed. Are you budgeting for the shed
Right
construction?
now
Because-
we're not budgeting for
Okay.
the shed. What I'm thinking right now is like I say, 35,000 to get it up here. What would you say about the track?
I would say you'll be looking at probably anywhere from 5 to 10.
Okay,
on the track.
just to lay 50-foot of track, and then we're thinking probably 35,000 to restore it. So that's what we're. But the main thing is to get it bought and get it
Yeah,
up here.
gotcha.
If we can't get the FEC, if they're not interested in painting it or working on it, then we could probably do it up there at the park. What we would probably do is something like take one of those temporary carports and put over it,
Sure.
because it does need to be under some kind of covering,
Yeah.
and make maybe our own paint booth and restoration center there right on site. And maybe that way we could get, other groups involved with it too, including, I know the scouting groups are always looking for something
Gotcha.
to do.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
I appreciate
All
your
right.
group and all that you guys are doing to help preserve a nice little piece of history in Port Orange.
Okay, just one question. Now, from here on, there'll be a study by the staff. Is that what's going to
When
happen?
we get to council comments, one of us is going to make a request of staff to take a look at what we can and cannot do to help you.
Okay,
But,
all right. But
you'll be able
basically,
to
we're
reach
just
out.
asking you to take it. We'll buy it.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Larry.
Mr. William Seward.
Hi. That's it. Thanks so much.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, city manager. Thanks for giving me some of your time this evening. What brings me here is an unfortunate an incident that occurred back on June 2nd. I know that the city manager and you have had some insight into this matter, but before I get too much into this, let me start out by first saying that the matter was quickly dealt with by the acting city manager, and however, from the incident, I derived that it's probably a systemic problem, and that's why I'm coming before you. That I think it's going to require policy that would enable to, or to protect us residents from stuff like this from happening. But let me give you the background of what had occurred for the benefit of the audience and whatnot. On the late morning of June 2nd of this year, a City of Port Orange engineer and his agent entered my land with cause. However, in retrospect, I think they lacked necessity, as there was more than one public access to their job site. When they came through the property, they didn't exercise any kind of courtesy of knocking on my residence. Instead, that late morning, the engineer exercised their authority that's granted to them under state law, but they exercised that authority with little due regard, and that's why I'm here. And I think had they taken the time to knock on our residence, they would not have found me and my wife and our lanai a very embarrassing, precarious nature. So I'm sure it was embarrassing for them. It was embarrassing for us. I did, confront them that morning about that with on-the-spot correction, but it was not received very well by those two staff members. So anyway, one of the explanations of why he did not exercise the courtesy of knocking on my door before he cut through my land to go to the job site, he said that policy did not exist, and therefore he was not required to do so. And he's absolutely right. But I'm sure as your attorney has probably read through this law, it's full of holes, and it's not something they should be hanging their hat on, as far as when they're going through our properties to their job sites. So I have some experience in this, having been a borough manager, and I know there's some processes that normally these folks have to go through before they do what they do. This person in the case, they were exercising a shortcut that they can't do on behalf of the government, so therefore there's some ethics issues that are involved. I'm sure your attorney is very well aware of, I've been made aware of, and sitting in your position. And I don't envy you by no means. But again, kudos to the acting manager, because she did a fantastic job that day dealing with this very difficult issue. So anyway, I went to the board of the professional surveyors and mappers, and those are the people that credential a lot of these folks. And I provided this as a handout to you guys through the clerk, so you guys can read it.
She
you
also
guys got a
emailed it
chance.
to us, so we
yes,
have
sir.
it. Yep.
I did. So I encourage you to take some time to read this. But for the benefit of the audience, one thing I will push out is that the Board of Professional Surveyors and Mappers for the state of Florida caution these folks that they credential that the board staff receives phone calls and written complaints from citizens who have ignored or were treated rudely, which in my case I was. And the board goes on to say that this is not the first impression they want these folks to make, obviously. So the one takeaway, and this is why I'm here, finally, failure to treat the right of entry as a privilege could result in the reduction or loss of the integral part of practicing your profession. So that's why I'm here, is to ask for some administrative control measures from this body to help prevent this from happening in the future. Also, for your background, I had contacted one of my public works guy that worked for me in the past when I was a borough manager, and he sent me some stuff from his schoolhouse that I provided to you guys. And I'm sure the same type of instruction was given to the same engineer when they got their credentials. And what they understand is that they're exercising his authority because of the credentials that they have earned. And unfortunately, this person didn't have the maturity or the judgment to exercise the authority that they were trying to exercise that day. But again, like I said, it was dealt with. The person apologized. Although I'll tell you, I'm not prepared to accept the apology just because tyrannical behavior this day and age is something we have to guard against. We can't have people from the government showing up to our properties and saying, "I'm from the government, deal with it," when they should be, like I try to impose on my folks. I know you guys have those same core values here, the core care values, but if they're going to use tyranny, that's dangerous. And it's actually right here in this in the school paper, where they tell them, where they're actually explaining how careful they need to be this day and age because of the Second Amendment. So especially in the state of Florida, because these folks could easily get mistaken as an intruder, and God forbid, I'm sure this gives you just goosebumps thinking about it. And oh, by the way, Chief, your officer that responded that day was very professional, but great guy. So anyway, I've given you guys some reading material. I'm going to request that the City Council of Port Orange task the city manager to convene a work group to draft an ordinance that requires engineers, surveyors, or mappers to give reasonable notice to the occupant and owner when possible, before entering their residential lands. You know, the one thing I'll admit is that, you know, you get more than one mind in a room, they can come up with some pretty good solutions. And maybe this may not be the solution for you. But I request it because the one thing I learned, if you're going to affect change, especially with something that's become a systemic problem like this, the only way to affect change is memorializing it through policy. In your case, you know, the ordinance or law. So that's the request I make of you. And if you have any questions, feel free to answer them.
We'll, and when we get to council comments, anything that we want to request of staff, that'll be the appropriate time to do this.
Yes, sir.
But I don't really have a question for you. What I do have to say is that we are supposed to be a customer service organization, ultimately for our citizens, first and foremost. We are a customer service organization. And whether it's emboldened by law or not, common courtesy should prevail whenever possible.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to take the ability of my staff away to react in an emergency situation. So we'll discuss about how later about how to do that. But I do want common courtesy to prevail when it makes sense. And with that, I know that you've already heard from our staff, but you have my heartfelt apology.
I thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really do. I appreciate it. And if there's any other questions, that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, sir. And it's nice when somebody comes up with a problem that also comes up with a solution too. It doesn't always happen that way.
And with decorum.
Yes.
Yes.
With that, Robin, did I have any other requests for public participation?
You should
This,
have one.
I have the one, but that was for item 20.
No, you should have another.
Do I have an, oh, I do. My apologies. My pile's getting too big. Anonymous?
Oh, well, that's non-agenda.
Yep.
The question is, on May 2021, is normally, he decided to leave, is normally the annual report for the police department, how they're doing with the city and all that. The early reports are in February, March. The late ones are in May. Now we're currently up to June this month, so just more or less inquiring when the annual report will be released. That's it. You have the rest of it on paper. Thank you.
I'll make sure it gets circulated as well. Thank you. That's it, Robin?
That's it, sir.
That brings us to council comments. Why don't we start, let's start with Drew this time.
A lot's been brought up here tonight. It's a long night, so I'm going to allow the others to defer any comments, but I'm good. We got a long way to go yet.
Yes,
so.
we do. Reed?
Can you guys, can I interrupt real quick? Can y'all bring your microphones up, please? I can barely hear you. I'm sure they can.
You really want to hear Drew better?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, first off, I had a great time at the Mayor's Tournament this weekend. I forgot my hardware at home. I was really looking forward to displaying it. But we had a great time. Course is in great shape. And Bobby and his son Ian carried me and Scott to victory, which was a really good time. I also want to congratulate Scott on winning re-election with no opponent. It was really...
Likewise.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also Kat Atwood, who's obviously, she's not here tonight, but she's also going to be serving when Chase is no longer here, so I want to congratulate her. I happened to have to go out of town for about 2 or 3 days last week, and we were in Boston. And I've already shared this with Wayne and with Susan, and I want to tell you guys about it as well. While we were there, a lot of their parks had these kiosks, about 5 feet tall, and on 4 sides had what were basically soap pumps, but instead they had sunscreen in them. And they were sponsored by Mass General Hospital. So they're made in a way where they could be bolted to the ground anywhere on the park property. And I just thought it was a really cool idea. And so I ran it by them to see if there's any logistics in us doing that, especially like at Riverwalk Park, where parents are out, they're with their kids, they stop by, kid sees the splash pad and got sunscreen, forgot it at home, it's not in the truck, whatever it may be. But I just thought that was a neat little thing that I saw, and I've asked them to look into it.
Maybe we can find a dermatologist that wants to do that, or Halifax Hospital.
I was, you know, you may have a connection
That's an
there that we
interesting idea.
could work on. So, but it was, I thought it was a neat thing. I also just needed to ask Wayne if we had any more update on the Terrytown Trail.
The paving has not been completed and accepted by the city yet. It's still underway.
Okay, good. And then I guess I'll leave that be for now. That'll be good. Thank you.
Chase?
Good.
Scott?
I just want to echo some comments there that Councilman Foley noted about the event over the weekend at the golf course. Not only is the golf course incredible shape, and I encourage anybody who likes to play to go out and play right now, because it's in some of the best shape I think I've ever seen it in. But the staff, our city staff, also did a phenomenal job putting on an event that raises a lot of money to help with the funding for children to be able to participate in our Parks and Rec program. So great job as always. Great weather. The air conditioning was broke on the course, unfortunately. It was a little warm. But the new carts look great. They move swiftly and provide a little bit of a breeze. But in all seriousness, staff at the course and our city staff did a great job putting on the event. I would like to make a motion to have the city manager and staff appropriately look into the request made tonight by the Railway Society to look at that project and whether or not a feature like that could be placed on that property and what that might look like. My family roots are here because of the railroad. My grandfather worked for FEC. He was a railroad inspector, amongst other things. His brother, who's currently still alive and lives here in the city of Port Orange, worked as a railroad diesel mechanic for FEC out of the New Smyrna yard for years. So, and I know that that's not just something that's unusual for me, but folks that have been, that have family roots here in the Volusia County area that date back into the 40s and 50s, a lot of them have ties to the history of the railway and FEC. So Larry caught my attention pretty good tonight, so good job on that.
I just learned something about you.
How about that, right?
Is that a motion, Scott?
Yeah, so I'm going to make a motion to have the city manager and staff look into this and see what would be involved and what would be the city's portion of this. You know, what would we need to do as a city, and what kind of costs might be involved, and so forth.
Second.
Any comment or questions? We have a motion and a second for the council to request staff to look into what the logistics of assisting the Port Orange Railroad Society. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No naysayers? Go ahead. What else you got, Scott?
In regards to the gentleman that just spoke, Seward, I hope I'm not mispronouncing the last name, but you know, with our form of government here being a strong city manager form of government, I think it's already within the city manager's authority and purview to look into this, and if he needs to reset policy and focus, that's something he needs to do, not us.
Yep.
With the form of government that we have here, so
Well,
I'm sure that
I
I'll have
know
a
I've talked to-
conversation with Wayne offline about this
Yep.
and my expectations, but as far as council dictating that, I don't know that that's appropriate from us.
I don't think we need to, because I think they're already working on that. If I'm not mistaken, you and the attorney are already working on what we need to do to correct the situation.
Yes, sir, we have it handled.
Okay.
Perfect. Sounds good. That's all I got.
Okay. Chase?
Already went.
See, I was giving you another crack at the egg.
I'm good. Still nothing.
There you go. Still nothing. This is one of those days, one of those nights. This is probably, in my memory, going back to the 20th century, the first time in roughly 30 years that we are not going to have a city election because all three candidates were qualified without opposition. And congratulations, Reed. Congratulations, Scott. Congratulations to Kat Atwood, who'll be taking Chase's spot. It's an experience I never had. 5 different times I had to stand on the ballot, and it's a lot of work campaigning in July and August. But
Absolutely.
the three of you very deserving. I hope that that is a comment on what, generally speaking, what people think about that. We don't get it right all the time. We've heard that tonight. But we sincerely, I can tell you this is a council that wants to get it right and wants to work at it. And it will be a pleasure to continue to work with you. It will be a pleasure to continue to work with you. And it will be a pleasure to see a woman sitting in your spot. Just saying.
You're gonna miss him, you know that.
I
right?
know it. And we've had a lot of fun. Here it is. Wayne, in regards to, I had this on my notes about HB 105, the smoking in parks and playgrounds, our ability to legislate that now, and now that that has been signed into law as of July 1st, I would like us to workshop that item because, first of all, it's not cut and dry about simply do we want to regulate smoking in playgrounds and parks, how we want to do that. It could be just the playgrounds. It could be we want to extend that more. But I would like council to have a discussion about what we can or cannot do. I understand we are going into a budget cycle, so if you don't have that workshop ready right away, that's fine. Late summer, early fall, whenever that's you have time. But I wanted to make that request of you so that we can get that for council discussion as soon as the staff is able to do that. I believe that's all for my notes. You guys hit some of the other things already. So with that, Citizens Advisory Committee for the TPO, item 13, Mr. Bobby Ball.
Bobby Ball with the CAC for the TPO. We had our monthly meeting, and I'll be real quick because you got a long agenda still. I think the biggest thing we heard out of our normal standard stuff about priority lists and things like that was really that a presentation regarding the $550 billion that was signed that'll come to us over the next 5 years. I say us collectively, but it'll be our job as a TPO and as a city to try to get as much as that for Port Orange project as possible. And that's all I've got.
Perfect. Any questions? There being none? Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Bobby.
Bobby. Excellent report.
You like that, short and sweet. Environmental Advisory Board appointments, we have 2 appointments. We did have 4 candidates for the position. One of those is a current officer of the Environmental Advisory Board who withdrew because, well, she got elected the District 2 seat. So Kat Atwood is no longer a candidate. The other person that is currently in that role is Mr. Michael Anderson, I believe.
Yes.
And we have 2 other candidates as well, Mr. Sean Geffert and here I am skipping around. I don't want to botch Jacqueline's last name. Thank
That
you.
one.
There you go.
See, I didn't see. If I do that,
There
I
you
can't
go.
botch it because you'd chime in and get me right. Those are the 3 candidates. We have 2 seats. One of the we have a current office holder who emailed and called and said that he is not able to attend tonight because of a conflict, but is interested in continuing to serve. But I did want to, before we accept nominations, the other 2 are here. They say ladies first. We'd love to hear from you about if you want to come up and tell us why you'd like to serve and what makes you qualified. Tell us who you are.
I'm Jacqueline Craven Loeffner, and I'm new to Florida. I'm not actually that new. I've been in Florida for 4 years, but I have been to Florida practically all my life. So eventually when I got down here, I saw that our oceans and our environment and everything is just not being as protected as it should. So I said, okay, we'll start small and go to school. So I just graduated from commercial diving school. So the underneath of what our bridges look like and what our oceans look like and our reefs, it's just not a happening thing. But at my age, I have to pick and choose my battles. So I said I will attempt to try and start small and go for an environmental board and get more active that way. Learn who my Congress people are, who my mayor and representatives are, and see where I can make the biggest difference.
Great.
That's it.
And I did get your message.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's item 20. That's a big one.
Might be.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll hit.
Thank you. And Mr. Sean Geffert.
Good evening, Council and City Manager. My name's Sean Gepfert, and so yeah, I want to serve on this board, but I want to give you a little history. I've been wanting to serve the city of Port Orange for a long time, but there was a mayor named Alan Green, and he looked over at me and he goes, "Hey, young man, don't you have a young family at home?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got 3 young kids." And he goes, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "Go home and raise your 3 children, and there'll be plenty of time for you to be involved." Well, my 3 children are adults now, and I'm still serving in different ways. I'm wearing a coaching outfit right now. I serve your Parks and Recreation by coaching 13 under flag football right now. I don't even have a child in it. I just love it so much. It's my way of giving back. I've always been serving through the Port Orange South Daytona Rotary Club. We've actually planted trees in the city. I've served on the board for the Chamber of Commerce. And everything has been about trying to serve our community and serve our youth and protect what we have. And this city has done a great job in the years past developing it, but we're kind of at the end of development. I think there's maybe 2 more major projects that can be built in Port Orange. Now it's all about taking care of it. It's taking care of what we've done and the mistakes we made. I mean, I live in a subdivision where we had to remove about 40 trees along the sidewalk because it was uprooting the sidewalk. It was a great idea to have trees there till they grow, and now you have a trip hazard and so forth. And we're at a tree city. We want to protect that. The environment is something very special. I grew up in the ocean. Fortunately for us, we don't have to worry about the ocean as Port Orange residents, but we have to make sure that our surrounding cities along the ocean are taking care of it. The river, obviously, that's very important to us. We have a lot of our residents use it. We need to learn how to protect it, and I'm ready to serve. My time is now to serve this city, and this board opportunity came up, and I felt like, hey, it's a good way to give back, and so that's why I'm here, and I appreciate the fact that we have people wanting to serve. So whether it be myself or anyone else, I'm just thrilled that, we're not trying to fill vacancies. We have people that actually want to do it, and that's a testament to your leadership. So looking forward to any opportunity I get to give back. Thank you.
Don't walk away so fast.
Back up.
Since we've got you trapped at the mic, I just want to publicly say that I know I am, but I think all of this council is extremely aware of the service that you provide. A lot in our city that goes very much unnoticed, but we notice. And I just wanted to, I know hopefully it's not awkward, but Jacqueline, if you want to find out about a lot of different opportunities to serve regionally in our community, that is the guy to talk to right there, because he, a lot of people, there's all kinds of service in the community, and we are service rich. We have a lot of people that serve in a ton of ways, which is what makes our community so great. A lot of people serve when a lot of times there's a personal connection, and that's fine too. Sean is an example of somebody who does a lot of service, and there's no personal connection other than his love to serve his community. It's like coaching baseball when you don't have a kid on the team, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, Jacqueline, Sean, Jacqueline, that is a great source right there to find out of a lot of different ways, other than just these particular boards that we have connected to the city council. But Sean, I also just wanted to extend to say thank you, and for everything that you do, not only in Port Orange, but in Volusia County, because you don't seem to have any boundaries when it comes to serving.
No.
So, but thank you.
All over the place.
His kids are grown, my kids are grown, but I remember coaching baseball and flag football against him back in the day, and you're just a little competitive. And if you're that competitive now, our kids are still well served.
Yeah, well, thank you. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
He didn't take losing to me very well.
All right.
That's okay, the feeling was mutual. We've heard from the two candidates that are there. I would now open the floor for nominations. We have 2 openings.
I'll nominate Sean Geffert.
Second.
We have a nomination for Sean Geffert. Do we have another nomination?
I don't, I'd like to nominate Michael Anderson to be reappointed.
Okay. We have 2 nominations. Do I have any other nominations? Nominations are open. Do I have any other nominations? Going once? Going twice? Nominations are closed. I have 2 nominations for 2 positions. Michael Anderson and Mr. Sean Geffert. Michael to be reappointed to the board, Sean to join him. Call the roll. This is a yes or no question for nominating both people to the board.
Councilmember Foley?
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont?
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. Wait till they see our pay and benefits for this. And Jacqueline, don't go away. We will love to have you on one of our boards. This is just an embarrassment of riches at times when we have more volunteers than we do positions. Okay. That brings us to the public hearing portion of the meeting. The public hearing portion of the meeting is now open. Item 15 is second reading of ordinance 2022-4. Ordinance 2022-4 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, approving the 6th Amendment to the Master Development Agreement of the Crystal Lake Plan Unit Development, PUD, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2022-4.
I'll second.
We have a motion second for approval of ordinance 2022-4. The item is open on the floor for discussion for second reading. Council, comments or questions? There being none, would anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, back to us. Council, comments or questions?
We discussed the heck out of this at first reading.
Yes, we
We
did.
did.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Foley?
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont?
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. Item 16 is ordinance 2022-11. Ordinance number 2022-11 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan, amending the future land use designation for plus or minus 1.44 acres from commercial to mixed use center for property generally located at 4085 and 4147 Ridgewood Avenue, providing for conflicting ordinances, severability, and an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2022-11.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a proper second. The item is open and on the floor for discussion. Council comments, second reading, or questions? There being none, would anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none? Council, final comments or questions? Call the roll.
Councilmember Foley?
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont?
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. Item 17 is second reading of ordinance number 2022-12. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, rezoning property consisting of approximately plus or minus 1.88 acres from Ridgewood Development and Community Commercial to Catfish Commons Planned Commercial Development, providing for restated Catfish Commons Planned Commercial Development Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance 2022-12.
I'll second.
We have a motion, proper second. The item is open on the floor for discussion. Council, comments or questions? There being none, anyone here care to speak to the item? Come on up, Robert.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. With regard to this, my concern is that the one property on the corner, it seems to me, my recollection, is that it was a gas station. And when they talk about the environmental concerns, there doesn't seem to be any concern about maybe that land being contaminated as a result of the gas station being there. And I think you should be concerned about that, and it should be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? There being none, back to us. Council, comments, final comments or questions? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Foley.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Item 18 is ordinance number 2022-13, second reading. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan, amending the future land use designation for plus or minus 0.81 acres. Good luck, Brendan. From commercial to urban density residential, 48 units per acre for property generally located at 5360 Dubois Avenue, providing for conflicting ordinances, severability, and an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2022-13.
I'll second. We have a motion, proper second. The item is open on the floor for discussion. Second reading. Council comments or questions?
This is another one that was discussed in depth at
Or you're
first
going to
reading.
use the words ad nauseum, but that's okay. Any comments or questions? Anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, back to us. Council, final comments? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Foley.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Item 19 is second reading of ordinance number 2022-14. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, rezoning plus or minus 4.9 acres located at 4020 Ridgewood Avenue, 4096 Ridgewood Avenue, and 215 Church Street from PCD to commercial, community commercial, rezoning plus or minus 0.16 acres located at 411 Church Street from commercial industrial to neighborhood preservation, plus or minus 0.1 acres located at 5360 Dubois Avenue from Ridgewood Development to mobile home residential, authorizing revision of the zoning atlas and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2022-14.
I'll second. We have a motion, proper second. The item is open on the floor for discussion. Council, comments or questions?
Negative.
There being none, would anyone here care to speak to this item? There being none, back to us. Council, final comments or questions?
I just want to make sure I'm going to recap this. I know we went over this in depth, and I'll be quick, but you know, I have no issue with 4020 and 4096 Ridgewood or 215 or 411 Church Street, but I really believe that it's the wrong zoning for 5360 for Dubois. I would be willing to support all of the other ones, but I'm not willing to support that one. And I'm just going to make sure I say that again because I really believe we should be looking for another option there. So,
Okay.
but that's my piece.
Anyone else? Call the roll.
Councilmember Foley.
No.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-1. That brings us to the one we're all waiting for. Wayne, get your recap ready. Item 20, second reading of ordinance number 2022-15, an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 42, Nuisances, Article 4, Noise and Light Regulations, Section 42-79, to replace the tourist use occupancy with commercial use occupancy, Section 42-80, to address the vehicle noise regulation preemption, Section 42-81, to address vessel noise regulation preemption, Section 42-82 to create a preemption exemption, repealing Section 42-83 related to special noise permits, and replacing with the creation of entertainment districts the special noise restrictions. Section 42-84, amending the methods of enforcement, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
That was a lot.
Thus the water.
Move to approve ordinance number 2022-15.
Second.
We have a motion, proper second. The item's open on the floor for discussion. Second reading. I know that there are a lot of people here in attendance that were not privy to the discussion, having not been here at first reading when we discussed it at depth. So I would ask that the city manager or somebody on his staff recap briefly what it is that we're discussing so people understand.
Mr. Berman, our Community Development Director, will give you that update.
Excellent job of passing the buck.
Thank you, Tim. Well,
We pay the bill?
Is that the AC?
Yeah, finally done.
Oh, no, don't say that.
You got a lot of stuff on that flash drive.
Yeah, so just being prepared. Good evening, Tim Berman, Community Development. This is the second reading, so I'll go over the proposed amendment that was discussed at the last meeting. Then, the proposed amendment would establish two entertainment districts on the east side of the city. These are 3 areas that have been established as commercial developments for redevelopment of uses such as entertainment uses, restaurant uses, and other commercial uses in plans such as Rigid Corridor Plan, as the community or the CRA plan, and ways basically the city has tried to incentivize development in these areas of those type of commercial uses. The proposed entertainment district here would establish noise sound levels within the district only. It would allow that basically a little bit louder than currently allowed by code in the district only, and also the time frame for when the music could be played would be extended there. Anything outside of the district, basically anything outside of the black lines, would comply with the current regulations in the current code as it stands in terms of noise. And so there's no changing of basically the noise that could be heard in the residential properties adjacent to that. That will follow the current code as is right now, and along with the measurement then. The only thing that the proposed amendment would change would be the noise allowed within the district and the time frame within the district then. So basically, as we indicated, there's 3 areas. One is the first one here is the one in the Down Under area. Contains basically just the commercial properties within Down Under. The second is the commercial properties located at the intersection of the Ridgewood and Commonwealth. And the third is the majority of the Riverwalk area north of Dunlawton then. Again, the way it's structured is that each one of those districts has its set time frame, and also the noise limits then for both Monday through Thursday, and then on the weekends. And then anything outside those districts, we default back to the current code. There's no change in how measurement of the sound is done as it currently is in the code. So staff's recommendation is the 3 proposed districts along with the noise levels that are set in those districts. And I'm here for any questions.
Council questions?
Can I just throw some questions out, just like simple yes or no's, to make sure maybe I can ask some of the questions I've been getting from residents for the last week. So between the hours of 12 and 7, so midnight to 7 a.m., there are no changes proposed with this than what is currently already in existence. Citywide, it will be 55 decibels, which is the same policy in these zones, outside of these zones, all the way over in Water's Edge. Is that correct, as I understand it?
The current code is basically outside of those areas. It's not changing. That actually has different time zones. Basically, it would actually be longer time frames that has to be at the lower decibel limits then.
Right. But I'm just referring to between that midnight to 7. That's gonna be 55 decibels, which is what it's been for forever, right? Also, if I own a home and I'm right up against that boundary of that district, it's still not allowed to be louder than those 55 decibels on my property, which is what it's been for years and years. It's only inside of that district that it can be louder than that.
Correct.
That's what I want to make sure I'm getting across here, is that if you live on the border of one of these districts, it's not going to change what has been legally allowed forever. Just because what's inside of these new districts allows for a little bit louder, it means it can be louder on your property. It doesn't mean it can be louder on the properties outside of the districts. So if you live outside of it, it really is not going to change anything. Now, if I don't believe there's any residential properties in any of these districts. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, that's just what I wanted to kind of get that all out there and make sure I was understanding it correctly, because I've had a lot of residents concern, and I
Joining too, but not inside.
exactly, and so that's why I wanted to make sure I asked those questions really simply, because it can get a little convoluted. Not everyone knows what 55 decibels mean. You got to look it up and find this chart, and some charts will tell you that it's a conversation. She has a decibel meter there that she's showing you. Right now, I'm talking at 65 decibels from all the way over here. So,
We are using a microphone, but you're used to that.
I am, yes. So, but I just want to get that out there so that people understand. If you have a residential property and you're outside of this boundary, the rules are not changing for what you're allowed to hear. If it is louder than that 55 decibels and they come out and measure it, then they will go inside of the district, as I understand it, and they'll tell them, hey, you got to bring it down. It's still too loud on your neighbor's property that's not in this entertainment district.
Correct.
Okay, just want to get that out there. Thank you.
Wayne, procedurally speaking, refresh us, and for the benefit of everybody here, when somebody does have a noise complaint and they pick up the phone and they call this in, and I speak from experience for what happens in my neighborhood with another bar up on Nova Road, which I won't mention the doghouse here. But what happens when somebody calls in a noise complaint?
The police department responds and brings their calibrated noise meters and makes the measurements.
Okay. And if it's too high, what happens?
Citation. Yeah, there's a possibility of citation, a possibility of warning. So.
Okay. So there's a whole process, and that can escalate too if the problem continues.
You can also have code enforcement as well. There's two ways to go. It can be the citation, and it can also be code enforcement action.
Okay. Because like I said, I'm not going to mention that other place near me.
What, the doghouse?
No, I'm not going to mention the doghouse, because that might put me in the doghouse. Council, other comments or questions for staff? There being none for now, Tim, stay close. Let's hear from the public. Who wants to speak first? Come on up. You know how to do this now.
I know how to do this now.
Jacqueline, you got 3 minutes. Tell us who you are and what's on your mind.
Jacqueline Craven Leffner, 5272 Barhide, and first turn, right on the diagonal. Decibel level, I'm a little concerned about that, because if you do raise it, it is going to produce going out further. An alarm siren can go off at 85 decibels, 15-minute cap off, that's it. So now you're talking about these places having this music on a constant basis. It's fine, I like it. I don't have to play my radio, which isn't too bad if the band is really good. The problem being is that if you're giving them the priority to the capability to get louder, now if I'm having entertainment at my house, a barbecue or something, my radio is going to go louder, and that's going to now aggravate my neighbor who might not like my music. It's going to cause an effect going around. The time frame is the biggest part of what I think a lot of us are here for. You are extending this to, right now we've got 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. You're going to extend that from 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. During the week, people work. If the bars want to continue, maybe compromise, extend the hours Friday, Saturday, and then cut off again Sunday through Thursday or something. When people are working, it's not going to be productive to have this music going on, because at 10 o'clock, first turn shuts off. I can almost set an alarm clock to that. And that's great, because 10 o'clock is when we go to bed. So people who are working, I think that's just something to consider, that if you're going to go that long, plus afterwards it's going to get very rowdy. The bikes and stuff now that are leaving at 10 o'clock, they're getting louder. So I don't know if anticipating having louder music is going to be as productive of business as it is going to be more of a nuisance, because you're going to get people hyped up with all the louder music, and then everybody else around the neighborhood is going to have to turn up their volumes. I can turn up the TV set louder because the music is getting louder. It's coming through my house where I'm at now, and it's a concern. If you're going to go louder, that means my TV is going to go louder, and I don't want to have to turn up the TV any louder. So that's kind of where it's at right now. I think a compromise of not maybe adjusting that time frame and maybe tweaking it down a little bit on the decibels, not quite as high, but not as low as it is now, might be a good compromise to kind of meet in the middle somewhere. That's where I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who else?
Hi, good evening. I'm Mary Halsey from 5284 Rogers Avenue in Port Orange. Good evening. I concur with the previous speaker. The only thing I would like to add is this is a concern, especially as the weather cools during the fall and the winter, and we want to keep our windows open. We want to decrease our energy bills. We can't afford what we're paying, and this, I think, would prevent us from it because it's extending the decibel levels to midnight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Mary. Who else? Anyone else? That's it? Okay. Back to us. Council, comments, questions? What's your pleasure?
Yeah, I think a lot of us, I know I did, got a lot of phone calls and emails and residents concerned specifically in this particular district. And I know we've kind of titled these districts. So I guess it motivated me a little bit to go back and get on Google Earth and look at, like, geographically speaking, the distances from some of these properties to considerably sized residential areas. And this particular area there at actually the Down Under area and the Ridgewood and Commonwealth area, they are significantly closer to a lot of homes, a lot of residential areas. I mean, there's basically one across the street from Commonwealth and Ridgewood that's within a couple hundred feet, and residents both to the west and north and south in size. So I am concerned about that. Great entertainment district, great business area. It's really nice to see the reinvestments in those areas. Same thing with the River District. You know, if you go and you look at the Down Under District, if I guess we're calling it now. So the Down Under District, you literally have an entire neighborhood that sits adjacent a wall to that district. I mean, it's essentially right in the backyards. And so I guess my thought is that I think we can have very good entertainment districts, good business success there, which is already occurring, without increasing those times for those particular districts. In the Riverwalk district, you've got considerable distances away from any significant residential. In fact, just from Halifax over to the other side of Ridgewood, which would be the border, you're talking almost 600 feet. So that's a pretty significant amount of space as well. So I don't know. My thoughts are is maybe what we should be doing is considering leaving the timelines and the ordinances the way they are for the Down Under and the Ridgewood Commonwealth entertainment districts, because they are so close to the residential sections of the area, and only moving forward with this ordinance for the Riverwalk district portion. So that's kind of my thoughts. So, like I said, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, and I do appreciate all those as well. And most of them were really respectful, and they're like, hey, we like the businesses, we go over there ourselves, but Monday through Sunday, you know, and by the way, so with the decibel limits, at 55 decibels doesn't mean you can't hear it. It just means it's at 55 decibels. You can definitely hear it. So, and a couple of the folks that I spoke with, that was their thing, is, hey, we don't even really mind. We're okay with it most of the time, but throughout the course of the week, we're just worried that it might be 11 a.m. One person particularly said something another resident said about, you know, in the winter months and in the fall months, we keep our windows open at night. We don't use the AC or the heat or whatever. and we can hear it. And so I'm sensitive to that. I mean, I can totally appreciate what they're saying. So those concerns I got with it.
This be an amended motion, or do we have to strike this down?
Well,
and
we're
then
discussing how we want to structure that first.
Because I agree.
Yeah, I don't want to spitball it. I want to make sure we've discussed before he makes that motion. But yeah, Reed, your thoughts?
I'm trying to put it together. Did you give Drew a chance to speak though?
You want me to come back to you?
Yeah,
I'll
let
come
Drew.
back.
I'm writing stuff down over here.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of work went into this with staff to get this. We are talking about a 10 decibel increase overall for an extended 2 hours. I get that. Most of the places in these districts have nighttime music, not daytime, so not really much is going to change during the day. It would be, slightly louder at night. I know the owner of the First Turn is here, and he has, since he's taken over, I feel he's been a pretty good partner and a pretty good, complying with this. I'm sure, there have been a few complaints. There always are. But I'd like to give him a chance to share his thoughts and see, because I'm good with what we have, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. My thoughts were is that we might be able to strike some kind of compromise on Friday and Saturday night with some extended hours to 11 p.m. But Monday through Thursday, I honestly don't see most of the businesses in the Down Under District or the Ridgewood Avenue area taking advantage of the later hours, except maybe Bike Week, in which they need a special events permit to do anyway. But I frankly, the decibel levels, I get that, but frankly, Riverwalk I'm fine with, but Down Under and Ridgewood, I would compromise at 11 p.m. on a Friday or Saturday, but although I doubt somebody would take advantage of going to midnight on a Monday night, I don't think that means we should allow it either.
They can't. Thursday, Friday, Saturday only, not on Monday.
Right.
It's 3 nights.
Yep.
I'm okay on Sunday. We never go that late on Sunday.
Okay.
By Sunday, people
You already
want
closed public comment.
Yeah, I already closed public
Oh.
comments, unfortunately.
So we can't hear from him?
We're changing the amendment.
Are you making a request
Are you making a
to hear
motion?
from him?
Yeah.
Are you making a motion to hear?
I'd like to hear what he has to say.
Is
if
it, you
that's
putting it in the
possible.
form of a motion so that I can do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Come on up, Shane.
Hi, I'm Shane. I am the owner of First Turn in Port Orange, and we're going on a year that we've been doing this. And I realize that the neighbors have come a long way with us. We've come a long way as far as keeping the music down, the levels down. We've kept the transient type of lifestyle that was there. We've kept that down, and I know that the complaints have been very, very minimal. And anytime anyone's come to us to complain or anything, we've done everything we possibly can to jump through hoops for them. Our music is not loud. We're not playing hardcore rock and roll. We're not, going against all terms of, what other bars in this town has done. We're trying to work with everyone. This is a restaurant. This is a business. It's a $5 million a year business. And the only way it can work is have people that are in this community come there and support us. And they support us because we have live music. And the reason they're building another $5 billion place up the road is for live music 7 days a week. You take away the live music, we're back into the Footloose days. We've lost dance, we've lost music, we've lost everything. Sunday nights, midnight, never an issue. Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, those are nights that we like to get a little bit later. If anybody drives up Ridgewood at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, there's nothing going on because they literally go, we have to get out of this town. This town rolls up, it's all done. We've now opened up inside to put a piano bar in there. Mayor, I know you got to see the inside of there. We've
Yeah, I
spent
never
almost
did buy
$500,000 redoing that so that we can have people there later and inside.
And
So we've
inside.
done a good job of moving people towards the inside, but it's nice to be able to, I'm bringing in a band that went last year, July 8th and 9th. I'm bringing them all the way in from Tampa and Las Vegas that had 2 number ones last year. These guys, the first thing they said, Willie, we got to be done by 11 o'clock. So having that extension of time and having that noise of a little bit different is no different than what it is now. You know, motorcycles and bike week and everything else is way louder than us.
Yeah.
People playing their trucks and their car music is way louder than us. So
normal traffic.
normal traffic
Heavy
is
traffic
loud.
is
you know,
louder.
and less than 2% of our business is motorcycle business now. You know, ours is a family-oriented business that allows motorcyclists to come there. So we have no issues with loud motorcycles leaving. We have no problem with craziness. I mean, we've abided by every possible rule there could possibly be since we got there. And, you know, I know from the police side to the council side to everybody, you know, we're not having complaints. I mean, we're going to have complaints about people just because they don't like the color shirts that we wear. But at the end of the day, we're trying to provide a service and a great place to bring your family and enjoy entertainment. And, you know, I appreciate, like, when you guys made this, it definitely was a big help to us to just have that little bit of time, because people don't get off work till 7 o'clock. They get there at 8 o'clock. They have to leave at 10 o'clock. This gives us an opportunity to keep this $5 million business going.
Yeah. Thanks, Shane.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks, Shane.
Mayor,
Hold on, we've reopened public participation. Would anybody else like another bite at the apple that has not spoken already?
Anybody?
Anybody?
Somebody's here.
gentlemen.
Come on.
Good evening, gentlemen. Mr. Mayor and your council there. I live the next block over from the First Turn. I'm a music lover like everybody else. Unlike a lot of people, I don't have to get up and go to work. I'm retired. But at night, I'd like to sit in my backyard in my hot tub and not have to listen to music. I don't care where it came from. I'm not trying to violate his bottom line. I certainly am for businesses in the neighborhood. But there comes a time in the afternoon and the evening, you just don't want to hear music anymore. I just want to sit outside and have a conversation with my neighbors. We can't do that on a Saturday night or a Friday night. And now we're talking about extending the decibel level and the days of the week. If you live on the next block, which we do, and we've been there 11 years, I love Port Orange to death. It's a distraction. It's a quality of life issue for me and my family. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you. Thanks. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Please.
sorry. Elliot Robert Hooper, Barhart Avenue.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hooper.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Anyone else who's not spoken that would like to? Public participation on this item is closed again. Back to us.
Mayor,
Reed, you've been writing furiously.
I've been writing, and I've also been running over there to the city attorney. It has come to my attention that I'm going to need to abstain from voting on this. I did not realize I have work contracted with the First Turn, and that is in this district. And I do not want to have any conflict of interest. I want to make sure that I stay neutral and I don't affect that. And I apologize for even speaking in the beginning. I did not realize that those dates were actually finalized.
So you are declaring a conflict.
I am. I'm declaring conflict, and I will be abstaining, and I apologize to everyone here.
It's on the remaining four of us. Something's got to happen. Three of us have got to be happy. I'm not going to be happy no matter what, so.
No?
Figure it out, Scott. What would you like to do?
Well, so, I mean, my concern is the extension of time, for sure, in these particular areas. Like I said, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails today. You know, I think the First Turn's got a great business going, for sure. They've made a great investment, and I don't see that, you know, extending this would jeopardize what they're doing. But the residents have got a very good perspective, and I don't have to abstain, but it's one of my favorite places to go to as well for entertainment. But I do think that a 7-night-a-week extension is definitely too much. I think we should focus on.
It's 3 nights a week.
Right, 3 nights a week.
Well, that's what this is.
Did you want to talk, or you want me to?
I got you.
So, you know, Friday nights and Saturday nights, I'm okay with an extension to 11 o'clock, which is a compromise. I think some of the residents have even spoke to that. But that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Drew, what are your thoughts?
I just want to be clear, it's not a 7-night extension.
No.
It's not. It never was.
No, some residents commented that way.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah. And it isn't a 7-night. I just want to be clear on that.
Any thoughts on the compromise? 11 instead of 12?
Not for me.
Okay.
Yeah, not supporting it.
My thing is that if we, in its current form, it will not pass. And if you don't compromise, then nothing's gonna pass, and we won't have entertainment zones in any part of the city because this will fail. So I would like, I understand where you're coming from, Drew, but you're gonna end up with nothing unless you compromise.
Passed 4-1 at first reading.
Nobody was here at first reading. He didn't hear from everyone. So I voted no at first reading. I'm
know.
still a no. But that was because I knew that we were going to be able to discuss it if we needed to. Scott had voted differently the first, and obviously he's expressed an interest in compromising. Chase has as well. I'm open-minded. Council, what's your pleasure? Chase?
Yeah, that's where I'm at, and mine was it was a tough yes in the first one because of this exact issue. The concern that, we impact a lot of, our residents see impact all over the city, and that, there are some things that you can't control when it comes to developing around the city and whatnot. But one thing that I've always been very clear about is trying to protect the integrity of the neighborhoods as best we can. So I'm for the compromise because I don't want to, pull the rug out from under folks. At the same time, I want to be, judicious in our resolve. So that's where I'm at.
Eric, can you please restate what the compromise is exactly that would be?
Well, it's going to depend on how you state it, but I think 11 p.m. instead of 12 p.m. on those 3 days. It's kind of what we're floating around on. Scott? Is that what you're going towards?
I'm ready to make a motion to that effect, so.
Okay.
You're done.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
Go ahead and make that motion now to amend the ordinance.
So I'll make a motion to amend the ordinance that in the Down Under and the Ridgewood Commonwealth Entertainment Districts, that we amend these times from 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
For those, two of those three proposed entertainment districts.
Correct.
Okay.
And so the Riverwalk would be
Unchanged.
Riverwalk will stay the same.
So it's just for these two?
Correct.
And it's 11 instead of midnight?
Yeah, it's 11 instead of midnight.
Okay.
Do I have a second on the amended?
I'll second it.
Okay. Matt, question for you. Procedurally speaking, we have amended, if we're voting to amend the motion here, do we need to have a vote on the main motion afterwards, or does this cover it?
I think this would cover it. I think it was clear that this is a change to the ordinance from first reading to second reading, and everybody understands what that is here.
We have a motion on the table already to approve that ordinance as presented, though.
Who made that motion? We can just repeal it. Whoever made the motion. I did. You want to rescind that motion?
Do you withdraw the
Yep,
original
I'll
motion?
make a motion to withdraw the original motion.
Do you, who seconded it?
I did.
Reed, that was, you're null and void anyway, so you definitely would be withdrawing your second.
That's good.
Okay. So what we have on the floor is a modified motion and a second. Council, further discussion? There being none, a four-person vote, call the roll.
This is for the new,
Yes.
new motion.
Amendment. Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Councilmember Philbin.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
I'm still a no. But I thank you all. I think we can examine it in execution. Let's see if it works, if it doesn't. Because quite frankly, we've got noise ordinances now and occasional issues at another establishment in the city that I didn't mention. But if we can make it work there, then we can make it work elsewhere. And if it doesn't, it comes back before us, and we'll make changes. Thank you, everybody. With that, we're going to take a short 9-minute recess, and that will allow some people who need to go get coffee to get some. We are in recess. And we are back in session. We have ended the public hearing portion of the meeting. Item 21 is approval of the change order number 9 with Subumigi Construction to extend time for the rec project. What the recommended screensaver kicked in. The recommended motion was, I was going to read that. The recommended motions to approve the change order and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the associated documents. May I have such said motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The item is open and on the floor for discussion. Ms. Lavallo, why don't you just tell us what we just made a motion and a second about?
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Susan Lavallo, Parks and Recreation Director. So the item before you is requested by the contractor for an additional 135 days to complete the rec. Just to kind of give you an idea, and I have a little thing here for you. This kind of gives you an idea of just the time frame, but we'll run through it real quick. On May 18th, we entered into a contract with Subungi Construction. Upon execution of the contractor requested a 90-day grace period for the notice to proceed due to long lead times on steel and other critical materials. The city granted that and set the notice to proceed for August 16th, 2021. Project scheduled to take 275 days to substantial and 30 days to final, bringing the original substantial completion date to May 18th, 2022. March 17th, 2022, the contractor submitted a request for an additional 164 days. The team sent it back asking the contractor to articulate the reasons for the 164 days and then to resubmit. We did receive the response back, and they lowered the number from 164 days to 135 days. The team reviewed the request and determined that there was 12 days of rain, 5 days for concrete delays, and that we did agree with the contractor that the industry is strained in the sense of getting materials and supplies in a timely manner, as well as labor force issues that they're facing. However, we did not believe that it was warranted of the entire 135 days. So we were comfortable with recommending 31 days for the miscellaneous labor and shortage supplies. Supply shortages. Therefore, the recommendation is to award the contractor 48 days, bringing the new substantial completion date to July 5th. If the project is not substantially completed, a $500 a day liquidated damages will begin until the project is complete. We did receive on the 17th of June, as you can see from the schedule, that the new schedule shows a substantial completion date of September 30th, 2022. Mr. Subungi is here, and I believe would like to speak to the council or answer any questions you might have as it pertains to the change order.
Okay, before we do that, questions of staff?
One question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott.
Well, so explain to me what the initial beginning 90 days was supposed to do, allow for?
So when the contract was awarded by this body, the contractor came to us and said, look, we're concerned, as we're calling our suppliers, there's a delay in getting the steel and some concrete blocks and some other items. We asked them what they thought they needed in order to get those supplies on, so when they started, they would be able to start right away without waiting on materials to get there. They said 90 days. We agreed, and we set that notice to proceed after 90 days.
Was that 90 days part of the bid, the original bid?
So the contract, our contracts are written, so there's an execution date of the contract, which is when this body approves it, it's executed. Then the days start, when we start counting a contract, the days start after the notice to proceed is issued. So if there's any issue, maybe it's permitting or something like that we're trying to get through, there may be a delay in starting the days going. And so that's why the contracts are written in that fashion.
Just to answer kind of more directly, the 90 days was not baked in. That was a decision made once the contract was executed to give that additional timing for the supplies to come on the site. Notice to proceed is what activates your deadlines in the contract. Once the notice to proceed is given, that's how we get to that May 18 date.
So the notice to proceed could have been 30 days.
Could have been the day after execution.
After execution, right?
Absolutely.
So we granted 90 days.
Yes, sir.
And then all of the other timelines were part of the contract prior to any bids? I mean, that's what goes out in the RFP, right?
Yeah, so
RFQ.
when we bid a project, we usually put, an estimated time constraint in there of what we think the project can be done at. And that's usually provided by our architect or engineer, whoever our design professional is at the time. And so that number was used. We had other people submit bids that went longer days on the project, but they submitted what we had requested.
Okay, so when a contractor bids this, they know what the timelines are ahead of time when they turn their bid in?
Yeah, and they could put in on their bid, they could have put as many days as they wanted to do the project. And then we evaluate that as the team, as we start evaluating all the contracts and the bids for responsiveness. We see, now if they put a date on there like 2 years to complete, we would look to our design professional to say, is that reasonable?
Right.
And at that point, then we would look at those times.
Is the timeline to complete part of the scoring process for reviewing the bid?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. That's good.
Hold on, Drew, you got anything?
No, I don't, I'm good.
It's just a quick question.
I'm curious, so we have the 31 days partially for like staffing shortages and also for supply shortages, and then we have 5 days for concrete. Why is the 5 days not just included into that 31?
So there was a change on the concrete. So they ordered concrete block. They started putting block up all the walls that you see. They started to run out of that block and had to order additional. That took some time, and we believe that was warranted as a supply chain issue. So that was kind of where that stood.
And when it comes to rain, I mean, we're in Florida. I mean, I do contracts. Always kind of aware of the environment we work in. When these come for bid, do people, assume an X amount of rain days? Is there a formula, is there a normal way to guess how rain days work? Yeah, okay.
Generally,
So
yes.
generally, and so the assumption is, the request for 12 rain days is, do you think it rained 12 more than we thought it rained, or something to that effect? 12 more than we thought it would rain during the course of this contract.
So I can't say what he thought, right? I have to assume that he does construction for a business, that he probably included some days. I don't know what that number is. That would probably be a question he would have to answer.
Okay.
However, we do reports daily. Our inspectors do that as part of our team. They write down the weather every day on those reports. And again, it's Florida, right? So it rains, but our look is, did the rain disrupt the work? Did the rain stop work? And if you pull up the weather service, it will tell you how many days it rained in Daytona Beach, and it could be like 30-something days. But it could have been overnight. It could have been. So those are things we have to evaluate when the requests come in, and that was part of the evaluation by the team. They requested more days for rain. We did not recommend that.
Seems like a lot of hours on staff.
A lot of detail. Chase?
This is the same project that I predicted last year wouldn't be done by this fiscal year, correct? I just clarificate. Yeah, their smile indicates yes. Sorry, having a little fun with
It's
you,
okay.
my friend. Hey, you said it earlier on. I think you did. Or talking fast, and I apologize. I missed it. What was the total days of projects? Total project days that
From-
this was supposed to be?
That originally?
Yes.
So it was 305 total days. It was 275 days to substantial completion, and then there's always a 30-day punch list, kind of cleanup type thing to get to the final completion date, which is when all the documents are turned in and those types of things. So 305 days total.
305 days.
Can you put the dates that were, or the timelines that were back up there?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, do me a favor, bottom line it. Change order, how many days are they requesting, and how many days is staff recommending?
They're requesting 135 days, and we are recommending 48.
Okay.
Did I read in here also they requested more than that, 135 originally too?
Yep, they requested 164 days. We asked them to reevaluate and articulate the reason for those days, and when they resubmitted at the 135 days.
So more than 50% of the amount of time that was allotted for in the in this. I've always had a problem with change orders, period. This one's no exception.
Any other questions of staff? I'm sure that Mr. Sabuni's going to have something to say.
So we're at roughly 395 days now from when the contract was approved by council.
Yeah, the original
Give or take.
suspension completion
Give or
date
take,
was
yeah.
May 18th, yes.
Okay.
All right, come on up.
Good evening.
Your name, sir?
My name is Hussein Sabunji. I'm at 1570 John Anderson Drive, Ormond Beach. This project was put up for bid on we won the bid on April 19. And we have a signed contract with the city on May 18. We were asked to rush and apply for the permit on May 5, even before we got the contract, which we did. There's more than one reason why we didn't get started until mid-August, is because the plans that were provided to all the contractors to bid were not officially yet approved by the engineering department nor the building department. And the plans were actually revised 3 times to satisfy their comments. You know the drill, how that goes. And we did not get our actual building permit until August 16, which is the date of our notice to proceed. So regardless, when we signed the contract and we reached out to our structural steel contractor, because that is a very important component, and I cannot even begin to tell you all the hardship the construction industry is having on construction materials, availability of construction materials. Back then, steel was the scary part. And when we reached out to our contractor, they said, we're not going to be able to deliver anything to you until October. That's when I reached out to the city. But it turned out to be a win-win, because in their case, they kept the gym open to the public throughout the entire summer, when the schools were out. And it also bought enough time for the design team to modify the plans and satisfy the engineering department and satisfy the building department. So come May 16, August 16 is when we were officially starting the project. So let me just tell you, this project there is new building construction, 14,467 square feet. There is 5,210 square feet of renovation for a total of 19,677 square feet. So, and I will tell you, it is a very, very complex design, complex project. Gorgeous, gorgeous. When everything's said and done, you all going to be proud of it. We're going to be proud of it. But I am telling you, this is not a house. And on honesty, when we bid it, the design documents and the specifications told us, and the addendum clarified, it was 9 months allocated. So I've been in business 40 years, gentlemen, since 1982. In my 40 years, I've never put additional time than what the specifications will tell me, in fear that our bid may get thrown out, or not, we may scare. So we bid this project 9 months, as we were told. I say 9 months. For us, the goal is substantial completion. Final completion is when you're doing punch lists and, like Susan said, clean up and things like that. Officially, construction, we got 9 months. Gentlemen, I'm telling you this right now. Home builders are taking 6 to 7 months to build an average size house right now. And that is the honest to God truth. And if you're getting into a large custom home, it's 12 months and longer. I've asked some of these home builders. This is a very complicated and complex project, and we are hitting it hard, and we are hitting it strong. We're doing a lot of work. We're not a perfect operation, and we are dealing with non-perfect conditions. 3-4 years ago, I wouldn't even be standing here asking you for additional time. We would not have any concern. unless a hurricane hit or something like that. But right now, there's a shortage in manpower. All crews are smaller than normal. There's a shortage in building materials. I have provided documented proof that for the concrete alone, we lost 42 or 45 days. I actually provided that. I actually provided them a spreadsheet. Every inspection we would get, we would pour concrete an average of 6 to 7 days later. Why? We couldn't get concrete. We couldn't get concrete. So if any of you have friends in the construction industry, ask them and they will tell you. Progressively, as construction began, this pandemic has done a number. It's affected all the cement, and now it's affecting drywall now, and metal studs, and everything. And believe me, it's a tug of war. I mean, I'm literally having to plead with our suppliers. Please, we're under the gun. We need to get concrete. Plus, there's cost increases. We're buying materials now higher than the price that we bid, that we put in back then. Back April 15 months ago. But it's got to get done. We're doing it. So, I have really provided. No, it is. I'm sorry. 45 days. Also, there were delays 20 days for the masonry. And I'm not going to talk about rain. We had rain that was flooding inside because the roof was not in. I had delays in the roof. We directed our roofing contractor to come on March 2, and when I presented that one schedule, I was making a prediction based on the roofer of what he thought when the roofing material would arrive. And that's when we were talking about was 90 days out. And that's when I made that 164 days extension. But then when the roof material actually finally arrived, it arrived on April 14. And the roof, that's a delay of 43 days. And then the roof got completed on June 3. When the roof material arrived and they installed the styrofoam and they poured the lightweight concrete on top of it, that's when we started doing interior work. Because our metal studs and all that, it was literally flooding inside. So the architect, and it was a smart move on his end, said, halt all work inside until we had the roof. So now we've been really moving forward, now that we have a roof over our head. And I will tell you, this project has had a lot of challenges. And I've made a list of a few of the things. I mean, underground water and sewer lines were altered. They didn't go according to the design because of roots and things of that nature. We've had several structural steel obstructions. When we demolished the renovation, the 2-story renovation, the older building, we exposed beams and columns that were not shown on the plans were there. Our air conditioning contractor has literally rerouted about 75 or 80% of all the ductwork in that entire design of the project different than what the design plans for, because of obstructions between ductwork and structural steel. And we've had 33 RFIs, and I will tell you this, I've had 20 change orders. Change orders, I should be getting time for them. One change order was for the design plans that were modified by the building department and the engineering. One was a credit that we gave to the city for deleting of a small second floor addition structure within the renovation. 4 were site-related modifications. We installed storm pipe. Only when the excavator got to a point, there's a Florida Power and Light line, and boom, we're hitting it. So and it took 2 weeks to come up with a solution. We backed out. We met almost to the near the beginning, about 100 feet. Pull that pipe out and reinstalling it at a different grade to go above the FPL line. So there's time involved in that. So For 13 of them are 13 change orders, are building related additional scope of work, additional stuff that were added. None by us, added by the owners. And that's actually 21 different trades, because some of them, I had some change orders, I had multiple trades in one change order item. And one of the change orders is playground equipment by a company called Compan. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And 11 out of the 20 change orders, we received approval to proceed with them just 2 weeks ago. Just 2 weeks ago. They're fresh. One of them, actually, I got approval on it yesterday. And that involved electrical work, installing conduits for fiber optic, data, phones, and power outlets. And the problem is now about 80% of the sheetrock is installed on the first floor of the west building. Now we have to remove the sheetrock to be able to install the conduits in the boxes. And we have 2 more change orders that we're in discussion right now. One of them is changing the sod from St. Augustine to Bahia, which will be a credit to the city. The other one is we're waiting on final information and design, and our electrical contractor will price it out. And that is for conduit work they're asked to do for security cameras and door access controls. And again, if the sheetrock goes up, I mean, we're under the gun. We're moving full speed ahead. If the sheetrock goes up, we have to remove the sheetrock to install these once the change order is approved. So the point I'm making, gentlemen, this dates that you see here, that was before these last 11 change orders, plus one more big one coming up. So when I sat down with them to discuss time extensions, up to then we had 8 change orders. I said, wow, I should have asked for time extensions with each change order. They said, yes, you should have. I thought, well, I'll follow an honor system that at the end of the project, when we finish, we'll just do 1 change order for the time. So when it came for these additional 12 after the 8, I started asking for time extensions with every single change order. I started asking 10 days here, 14 days here, 5 days here. Every one of them was approved, 0 days added, 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 except one had 5 days added. One of the change orders, it took them 2 weeks to decide, and then there was about 5 to 6 days of additional work, yet 0 days added. And I don't know how fair that is to say July 5 is your substantial completion date, especially when I have not just delays up to that point, especially that I have 12 more change orders that have come up after the July 5. So when we revised the schedule and we said September 30, I revised it based on the timeline that we knew when the roof material actually arrived. One of the change orders, one of the 20 change orders, is a company called Compan. It's the playground equipment. The playground equipment, it was in our contract. We were told put a $50,000 allowance, and as the project progressed, we moved forward discussing. So it was just an allowance. I had a $50,000 allowance. We did not have any conceptual plans, anything to go by on what to design. So they asked me to reach out to some playground companies that you know, and reach out to them and have them come up with some designs. So I reached out to a couple of them. One declined. They don't do indoor playgrounds. One stepped forward, and I had started the conversation with them back in November, and on January 6th they presented us with a design. and with a proposal, and I provided it to the city, to Susan and her team. And they looked at it, they said, it looks okay, but it kind of reminds us of a playground inside of a McDonald's, or we want something, which was really nice word. She said, we want a wow, you know. I said, okay. So I went back to the company and I said, give us a wow, come up with something. So they presented us with an alternate January 31 that I gave them. Again, it was not accepted. So then Susan said there's a company that she, I guess, knew a little bit about or whatever, named Compan. So then we started in February conversations with Compan. Compan is a company, it's a Danish company from Europe. So we had numerous Zoom meetings and going back with designs, and they offered this and they offered that, and we made comments and all. We're all sharing together on these Zoom meetings. The architect, myself, Susan, and Peter and their team, and finally came up with a beautiful design that is truly, truly, I commend her. It is a wow. And this design and change order was submitted on March 17. And we were given the go-ahead to proceed with it. And but this company said they engineer and they manufacture in Denmark, and the equipment will not ship to arrive. It will ship and arrive at the end of September. In October, they're going to be installing the playground. And this is what you're going to get. It really is beautiful. It's a beautiful design. I will commend her for insisting on it. So, the playground, none of us have control on the timeline with the playground, especially it's being shipped from overseas. The earliest it's going to arrive in October. We don't have a choice with that. Now, our goal was initially to be completed substantially September 30, and that's what we presented, but that was even before all these change orders came about, the last 12 change orders. So, we want to finish with this project more so than the city wants us to finish with this project. But at the same time, there's a reality of it. Our goal is still to shoot for September 30, substantial, but I'm telling you, gentlemen, potentially it could be sometimes in October, depending on building materials. So, I mean, we've had a lot of issues, you know, with the building. I mean, I have columns that are in locations that didn't, you know, that in the middle of a room, you know, and fire sprinkler pipes that are in the middle room that needs to be relocated and so forth, you know. So I mean, I'm not here to you know, it's been a challenging project. We're doing the best that we can. The team that we're working with, they're really excellent. They've been doing very helpful for us. I mean, Mr. Smith, you know, and Dana Smith and Frank Flagg and Susan and Peter really been great to work with. And so we're doing the best that we can. But the reality, gentlemen, I'm just telling you, with all these, especially with all these change orders, it's impossible for us to meet the July 5 deadline. It's impossible. And is it fair to assume that you know, additional work does not warrant time extension for them? So that's where I stand.
Council, you have any questions for Mr. Sabunji? After all that, you might as well have a chance to answer questions.
Yes,
from us
yes,
too, right?
yes, yes.
Council, any?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Wayne, based on what we've heard and what you've presented, do we have additional information?
Sue will probably give you a little bit. I did just want to say that as he was going through explaining, remember tonight in front of you, you have a change order that came from March that was originally a request for 5.5 months to finish the project Thanksgiving. They've since modified it back to the Halloween end of October date, 4.5 months, where our recommendation to you finishes it in July. He described, which was probably confusing to council, it was to me, a whole bunch of change order things that aren't in front of you tonight. Like a lot of what he was talking about are not items that are part of this change order. So you'll be seeing them as we come forward, but we haven't evaluated those nor put them in there. So I just want to make sure when Susan gets up there, clarify. He was mixing and matching everything it's true. Stuff's legitimately happened today, but what's in front of you to consider tonight are not the other 14 change orders. So there were comments about this column here and this wire here aren't parts of the change order. So Sue will address some of that, some of the broad
I
problems.
mean, you get into a project.
Right.
and
It's
you
happening
should-
to
you should
him
account
in
for
real
that.
world
You're not-
time, but it's just.
You're not modifying
yeah.
a new building.
Yeah, he's describing real change orders, they just haven't gotten in front of you yet.
Okay. See what else you got for us.
So just to clarify a couple items, so attached in your packet is Mr. Sabunji's request.
Mhm.
And you'll see that that's how he articulated the days to us.
Yep.
Some of the things he mentioned tonight are not in that letter. You know, and when we make decisions, we make them based on some of these things. He discussed the playgrounds. Let me explain the playground and how the playground worked, okay? When we put this out to bid, we did not have our grant award from the Racing and Rec District yet.
Right.
We didn't know what that amount was. So we put a $50,000 allowance in. As you know, we were awarded $225,000 for the playground. It could only be spent on the playground. It couldn't be spent on anything else.
Right.
So we consistently ask the contractor to please start getting us some sketches on the playground. The playground is the focal point when you walk into the building. It's very important to us. It's something that we have to nail. We were meeting at that time every other week. I would always ask that question. They would say they're getting it to us, and as you can see, it went on about 3 months. When we got the design, to say the least, I was very disappointed. It was a McDonald's playground. I don't think that is the quality that we want in the rec. I don't think that is what we've told our citizens they're going to get. So I was disappointed. My team was disappointed. They went back to the office and started Googling pictures of playgrounds indoors to see what they could find. That's how we came across the company Compan. Compan has offices in Jacksonville. Compan did our playground at Spruce Creek Road Park. We called them up. We said, hey, tell me about this product we're seeing. I've never seen it anywhere before. What can happen with this? And she's like, wow. She goes, we don't do that here. She goes, let me call our Danish partners. She called them up. We talked about it. She goes, I think we can do something. We told her about what our time frame was at the time. She goes, I think we can do that. We put them in contact with Mr. Sabunji. They came up with a design. We talked about it. They actually had a concept plan to us before the second design came back from the original contract, the original playground person they were talking to. At the time that they submitted to us their time frame, we already knew we were in October. We were already told by the contractor that we were not going to make it to the original substantial completion date.
Mhm.
Compan asked in a call, does this meet your timeline, Mr. Sabunji? The answer was yes, we can get that in. It will be during that substantial completion area between the substantial and final. Everything comes shipped, everything comes in, they come in, they bolt everything to the concrete. The contractor had a concern about if there was any additional concrete and pouring they had to do. They designed the equipment to be surface mounted to the concrete slab, so we did not hold them up at all on what they need to do to prep the lobby for this. Compan comes in and installs everything. Contractor does not install anything. So we couldn't understand why there was additional days for that playground. We were even to the point where we would have come back to the board, to you, to say, hey, we have this really cool playground coming. We could have opened the building and brought the playground in later. We could have done that if that was the choice of this board. But however, it was going to fit in within the timeline we were with the contractor. So I just want to make sure you guys understood that part of it. This is an old building. I think the Sabanji Construction was the original builders of the gym. So it's 30 years old. It's been renovated once. We put a surface on the outside of the building so it wasn't look like a metal warehouse anymore. And there's a lot of things you don't know. We don't have good as-built. That's why we asked for contingency, because we knew once we started opening walls, we were going to run into some problems. I believe our design professional has been very responsive trying to get those changes to them when they uncover something. And there is one change we did make. When you walked in the building, so when you walked in the old rec, you could look up, right? The kids would go and jump and hit the wall, you know, where you walk in. That was going to get closed in, and they were going to have a ceiling that was, I think, 8 feet, Dana? 9 feet. So here you walk into this atrium area. When you first walk into the new addition in the front, you're going to have this huge playground, and then the ceilings were going to drop to 9 feet. And staff said, boy, that's just going to take away from the look. Can we just leave it open and not finish the floor there, and we'll readjust these 2 rooms? That's what we did. There were some credits for that. But there had to be some readjustments to some of the air ducts, and Mr. Sabanji's correct, there had to be some changes done to the design, which our design professional did. So those were some things. Again, like he referred that he did not put time in as we were going along, which is probably what he should have done. He is putting time with going forward, and the reason he's getting no is because the work he's doing really isn't extending the time. So right now he's up to another 125 days that he's added on his change orders. From change order 10 to 21, there's a 125-day request.
On top of?
Yes. We asked the question, does that mean the project's going to go 125 days longer? And I was told tonight that, no, that's not what that means. So I said, I don't understand why you're requesting more time if you're still going to finish within the contract time you just gave me a couple days ago. That's where we are. I get Mr. Sabanji's frustration. I get that he's dealing with a lot of things. You charge us to manage the project to the contract. You charge us to be good stewards of the money, to try and make a good project done when it's complete and built to the specs that were provided in the packet. And we've given that to you as the design team, our inspection team, and our Parks and Rec team thinks that we can stand up here and tell you we think this is good number. You guys know I didn't go to school to be a contractor. I went to school to be a Parks and Rec director, you know, but I listen to the people that are on our team, and it truly has been a city project. Every department in this city has worked on this project, and that's what it's taken. And I listen to what they have to say, and we make decisions based on that. So that's all I have to say. Dana from DJ Design is here if you have any design questions that he referred to. You know, those types of things. Like I said, when it's all done, I agree with Mr. Sabanji. It's going to be a great project. Our community's going to be excited. I think you guys are going to be excited. But right now, it's just taking care of the paperwork and making sure that I'm doing what you've asked me to do. So that's where we are.
Council comments or questions of staff? There being none, would anyone here care to speak to the item? No? You had shot. Procedurally speaking, that's how we do it. Thank you. No one here to, no one from the public? Council, comments, questions? What's your pleasure? Sure. Bottom line, we've got a 135-day request. We've got a 48-day recommendation, and I'm willing to barter a little bit, but that's up to us.
Look, I got to go with what, I'm not in construction industry, and I understand things take a long time, and it seems like they take longer. But we had a lot of people working on this with Susan and Dana and Frank Flagg, and they say 48 days, nearly 50 days is enough, and that's what I'm going to support, because that's they reviewed it, they looked at everything, and that's the recommendation. So that's where I'm headed.
Okay. Scott, Reed, Chase?
Well, I'll start off by saying I sympathize
Absolutely.
a little bit here because I understand what it's like to get locked into contracts and for things to change the environment around you. I'll give you an example. I travel for work sometimes. I go out of state, and plane tickets for those travels have doubled in the last 6 months. That's not something I expected. However, I signed on to do it, and therefore I'm being held to the contract I signed. In some cases, that's not been as profitable for me, and it's not been as enjoyable, but I've had to go through with it. Ultimately, I mean, this is a partnership, and when you get into something like that, and some of the stuff that I'm hearing explained makes sense, and some of it doesn't. But like Drew just said, I'm not in the construction business. We have some experts here. We have experts on staff. They're saying this is the right way to go. I can't see myself going any higher than what staff's recommendation is.
I'm looking at it from, not just from the construction industry standard, I'm looking at it from what's good business. They've committed to build a major project for us, and I get there's going to be some contingencies, some within our control, some that are simply not within our control. The one thing that I heard that I did not like one bit was, well, when we bid the project, we don't put extra time in there because I want to win the bid. I didn't like that at all. So you kind of stuck with that in regards, but I'm willing to give some days. I was willing to go to an even 60 myself. I'll go longer if you can with additional justification. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, the staff recommended 48. The request is 135. But the bottom line is, it comes down to the 5 of us and what we want to do right now, based on what we've heard.
Well, the most confusing part to me of that whole presentation, at least they've been in business for 40 years, but didn't ask for any additional days in the first 8 change orders, and that confuses me. But again, I'm not in the construction business. Someone would have to explain to me. But I know if someone asked something extra of me, I would say I'm gonna need this or that. I would address that as I go in what I do for work. So I don't know, that really baffled me.
Chase?
No comment.
Okay. Council, any changes?
Yeah, I would echo the same concerns, at least in my mind, as I'm listening to all this that you guys have noted. Is, I want contractors who want to do work in the city of Port Orange to understand the contract and submit good bids with good prices and timelines that they feel they can meet. If they're submitting bids with timelines that they know up front they can't meet, that's just not responsible. I don't want contractors doing that just simply to win the bid. It's not about winning the bid. It's about being able to execute the project and deliver the product to the taxpayers. So, if you're selling the project, if you're selling your ability short just to win a bid, then there's a problem right from the get-go. So I can appreciate that, but I can also appreciate that these this is a hard time, but it's a hard time for everybody, including all the other folks that submitted bids for this as well. So, a lot of it has to do with, in my mind, I want to make sure that we're fair, that the bid process is fair for all the contractors. And Mr. Sabungi and his company have done a lot of work in the city, and they do great work. And I'm excited that they took on this project, and I think the completion of the project will be something amazing for lots of generations to really enjoy and see. But I lean the same way. I mean, we've got a lot of oversight in this project. We've hired people to have the oversight to look out for the best interest of us and the taxpayers, and that's what they're doing. And their recommendation is 48 days, and that's where I'm inclined to stay.
We're talking time, not dollars, though.
Right.
So that's where I look at it from a business perspective.
I can appreciate that.
Okay. Any other comments? No changes? Call the roll.
Councilmember Foley.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
No? 4-1? I know this is not the last we're going to hear from it, but one way or the other. I think we're all looking forward to a positive end of the day. Thank you. City Attorney Annual Evaluation. Has everybody had a chance to meet with Matt?
I have.
Okay. Well, this would be the part in time when we all have our public comments. Let's start with Reed.
Well, you know, it's interesting when I got to do this for Matt last year. I'd been sitting on this council for about 90 days, and so over the next 365 here, I think he's done a really great job on almost all fronts. I left a review. I turned it in to him and as well to Robin. I'm not a big fan of holding these publicly and getting into the details on it, but overall, I think we have somebody in the position who's doing a great job, and that I'd like to see sticking around there for quite some time. So.
Chase, your review.
You know, outside of his poor decision to not wear dress socks with his suit tonight, I think he's doing a fabulous job. But I already had that private conversation with him today.
I thought you were going to complain about his short game.
He knows my feelings on that. No, I think we have a first-rate city attorney. You know, the fact that we're the communication level is at as high as it's ever been since I've been on council. The dialogue, the response time. You know, and my hat's off to him even today, and to the city manager for coming with me to visit a home to address an issue together. And the accessibility that he's shown has been fantastic. The manner in which his office is run. You know, if I had a negative comment, I wouldn't have any problem giving it, but frankly I just don't have one. So, Matt, Mr. Jones, keep up the great work. You represent the city with great dignity. I'm proud of you.
Drew.
I too am not a big fan of doing the public, review of it. I will say he's not average. He's not above average. He's outstanding. Everything we ask of him and more he gives every day. I gave him a very good review. If anybody wants to see it, contact the city clerk, and I have it written and documented, and so it is fully available, but I'm not going to go over every aspect of it up here tonight.
Thank you for that.
We got a keeper, and he's outstanding.
Scott?
I was gonna make a motion that we probably get rid of them, but you guys are, yeah.
Good thing I left you for last.
Right? Yeah.
There's no consensus.
You know, one of the challenging things for us is review and evaluation of the city attorney and the city manager, because we're not here day to day. The form of government that we have is a strong city manager form of government, which means that the council is basically part-time and we're advisory and policy makers. So we don't see the day in and day out operations of a lot of things, especially in the city attorney's office. We don't necessarily see a lot of how he interacts with his team and his staff. That being said, what we do get is we judge that based on responsiveness and his ability to follow up with us, and he's excellent at that. And the one thing for sure about anybody who ever wants to aspire to be a city attorney or a city manager, if you think it's a Monday through Friday 8 to 5 job, it is not a Monday through Friday 8 to 5 job. I've had many occasions where it's well past 10 p.m. and I'm on the phone with the city attorney, and he's briefing me on things because he's making himself available when I happen to be available. A lot of us up here work the traditional 40-hour week full-time jobs and then some. So he's extremely responsive. He's very much available when we need him to be available. He's probably one of the best decisions I think the council has ever made in promoting from within. Clearly he was ready. He has stepped up to all of the challenges. Matt truly looks out for the interest of the city. He has no other agendas. He wants to do what is best for the city. He wants to keep the council in good shape and out of hot water. He wants to protect the city. He wants to look out for the interests of the taxpayers. He is conservative in that regard. He approaches things with caution, but when things do need to be taken head on, he's certainly capable of doing that. And we've got a great city attorney. We got a great city staff, as a matter of fact. And so I appreciate the work that Matt does, and I certainly hope he stays around for a really, really long time here in the city.
Matt and I get to meet monthly, and every month we talk about what's ongoing issues. But one of the things that I enjoyed about sitting to talk about your review is that we actually delved into the inner workings of your department, and that was a conversation we don't often have. And being able, what are you doing to develop this person? What are you doing for that? You know, and how are you handling your because now you're managing other people and developing other people, and I appreciate the fact that you're committed to doing that. And that goes beyond just the day-to-day. Let's get what comes up going on. That's showing that you want your department to grow in its abilities. The other unique thing is that you are customer service for all the other departments in the city. And the reason why I've always asked if there are contracts that take more than 30 days in your department, you let us know that. And in your monthly report, one of the things you report on is contracts. The emphasis there is just that you guys are customer service for the other departments of the city, and we are very reliant on you to make the other departments go with that. And I appreciate the good hard work and the great efforts. And I too came up with an okay score. I think we'll keep them another year. I did have one critique for him, one opportunity, but it comes up once every 10 years, and he'll learn from that, and we'll do better. With that, council, as far as compensation, are you pleased to give this review and not talk about a pay adjustment, or what do you think is appropriate compensation alteration to go along with the review that we've had to publicly give?
I believe he's earned and deserves a bump.
Well, I have no doubt in my mind that we need to do some kind of alteration in a compensation based on the positive review. Yeah, I think he deserves a bump as well. This is one of those situations where I know right now, whatever it is that we do, what comes into our pockets, just like his, is valued less at what it was last year. So,
of course.
But at the same time, the people who have to pay for that to adjust it are going through the same thing.
I understand that.
So I would like to do something for the city attorney. My preference is that we do something, but we don't go hog wild doing it. Although I do think from a market standpoint, that he's close to the median, but not quite there. I think he does okay, and I think we could do it, but all right by him. But I think we need to also keep that in check with considering what the people who have to pay that are going through as well. What are your thoughts, gentlemen?
I'll just say that I'm not looking to do that tonight, for sure. So this is about evaluation time. I think that there are a lot of challenges laying before this council and the taxpayers with the coming budget year, and a lot that's going on right now. So I definitely don't think that that's a discussion for tonight.
Okay. Well, and that
just my opinion.
That's an opinion, and
Yeah.
part of the reason why I wanted to have the discussion is so that we go into budget cycle with that dollar certainty, so that we knew what we were doing or not doing, or what we've committed to or not doing. Because we come out on the other side of the budget cycle and we haven't adjusted the attorney or the manager, they're probably not going to get one, and I think they both deserve something.
Absolutely.
I'd like to, and that's part of the reason why I think we talked about doing this in May in the past, is so that we go into budget season knowing this is not the largest, not even close to the largest chunk of what we have to absorb or not absorb with our budget. It's a very small part of it, actually, but nonetheless, it's a part of it. We can do something tonight. We can kick the conversation down the road. If you guys want to think about it a little bit more, that's fine. I really don't want to go past the next time we get together.
Which is next week.
We got a budget workshop. We do. We could add that as a discussion item to the workshop if you'd like. We have time to think about it.
You can do that, yeah, you can do that, that's fine. Now, what I'm looking for is we gotta understand, what is it gonna cost to turn the page, to do the same business we did this year, next year? We don't know that yet.
Yep.
So before we start talking about pay increases and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of information out there that we don't have tonight, that I think it would be prudent for us to have and evaluate that beforehand.
Will we have that information next week, though?
Probably not.
You won't have it until you're done with the budget workshop, in which case, you're probably not doing anything, but that's, you know.
But we're also not making the final decision on the budget next week either.
I would, personally, I'll throw this out as a watermark. I'd like to do a 5% adjustment for the attorney myself. It doesn't have to be tonight. If that's too high, come back with an argument when we decide to discuss it. If it's too low, come back with an argument when we decide to discuss it. But I'm going to give you a watermark right now to think about. Okay. Do you want to have that discussion at the end of budget workshop next week, or do we want to have it at a council meeting in July? What do you want to do?
Next week.
I'm hearing one next week, and I'm hearing crickets from the other three of you.
I don't want to wait through July.
Yeah, I don't
Scott
think
Scott
we're
brings up a
anywhere
good
close to making
point.
it.
Actually, both of you bring up really good points. Is that there are so many unknowns this year, but at the same time,
Well, this would be a known as soon as we make a decision on it.
yeah. But and do you want the value that we place on their service to our residents? Do you want to base that on the rest of the budget? And so it's actually a very, very thin line. That's not easy to decide on.
Could be. What do y'all want to do?
I'm fine waiting until July. I know we've still got some other contracts we're dealing with right now. I'd like to see where we're at with some of those as well.
So we'll add it as a discussion item under the city attorney's review to our first regular meeting in July,
Which would be the third week of July.
third week of July.
Yeah, you can put it there for now.
That'd be fine.
Okay. So be it. Matt, did you have a report for the evening?
No, I appreciate the comments. Thanks for meeting with me individually. That was nice and awkward right there. I want to thank the team. Got a great team in the office that I think maybe makes me look better than I am sometimes. So I just wanted to thank them, the two attorneys, two paralegals, and a legal admin that are up there crushing it every day to make us look good.
So you should be giving them the raise. You just told
Yeah.
us why you don't need one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I heard there. Anything else to report? Excellent report. City manager evaluation. Let's see, who did I start with? I started on that, and let's start on this end this time.
Well, I started last time.
You started with
I'll
him
take the
last-
ball
Okay,
again.
never
I'll
mind.
take the ball again. I don't mind.
Go ahead, Drew.
I'm good. Same thing as with Matt. Wayne has done an excellent job. I mean, you know, he came in here, hit the ground running, and so he's done an outstanding year. And again, I'm not going to go over every aspect of the evaluation. I gave him a very good evaluation, very high marks in pretty much every category that is on the form, and the form is available for review. Contact the clerk and she'll be happy to provide it to you. But we don't have the time or the energy to go through every single aspect of, you know, what we evaluate them on and what we see. But he's very good. He's outstanding.
Scott?
Interesting first year, full year for
Yeah.
someone becoming a new city manager. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces to the city. Some changes in vision, some changes in direction, total change in an environment of the world we're living in right now. So a lot of challenges, and Wayne meets them all. A lot of similarities between, you know, the things that I look for in the city attorney that I look for in the city manager. For sure, I know I commented that Matt and sometimes are talking 10 o'clock at night. I think Wayne and I've almost kind of midnight a couple of times. Wayne is very approachable. He's always available. Even when he's really busy, he'll let me know, hey, I'm doing this, I'm going to get right back to you, and he always does, and I can truly appreciate that. One of the things I wanted to comment about the two is that, you know, when I came on council 8 years ago, I don't know that it was truly like this, but there was a little bit of a atmosphere that there was some division. It was an us versus them thing between the city attorney's office and the city manager's office sometimes, and that may not have been the case. It was just, you know, those were things that had a feel sometimes to it, and man, we have come so far from that, and I truly appreciate the two of you making sure that you guys are communicating effectively with each other. Projects are getting done, things can move forward, there's no bog down because the city attorney can't get with the city manager and vice versa and things like that, and you guys do a great job of that relationship and making sure that the eye stays on the ball. I think Wayne's got a lot of challenges coming up in the future. He knows those already. We've talked about those. He doesn't shy away from any of those. He has a very head-on approach. He's very good at that. I think Wayne is very focused, trying to get to a position that he can even concentrate more on staff development. He knows that there is a time in our city where people have to be able to step up, take over, continue to move on. He's extremely aware of that. I know that there's been tough to do a lot of that in his first full year, but he knows that needs to be done, and I think he's looking forward to those challenges. One of the big things that we asked for Wayne when he first came on here was please get us towards closure and wrapping up on a Riverwalk development that's been out there for almost 25 years. He knew that was going to be a high demand. He knew he would be under very close scrutiny from this council and others watching that. He has taken that leadership role and empowered staff to go towards getting that project moving in the direction we've been looking forward. So that is a huge success right out of the box. We're not there yet, but a lot of great victories and a lot of success right out of the gate. I'm very happy in our decision that we were able to bring Wayne back to the city of Port Orange, and that he chose to do this, and really look forward to what he's going to do in the years to come for sure.
Jace?
You know, Wayne and I had a chat in Tallahassee a few weeks ago, and I reminded him that Wayne was not my number one choice. He wasn't my number two, and wasn't my number three. There was no strike on Wayne. I was just looking for somebody that had done the job before and had the experience. And you know, and I told him that night, and I'm happy to say it publicly. Never been more pleased to be proven wrong. You are the right man for this position. You're the right man to lead the staff. You're the right person to be the face of this city. So I appreciate the work that you have done. Your accessibility, as Councilman Stiltner just referenced, it's remarkable. Coming with me today, you know, that's not a city manager's job to do, but I don't see that you hold yourself as somebody that just has a title. You know, you're a friend to the city. You know, you're a friend to the residents, and I appreciate the manner in which you approach your job, and the manner in which you lead your team. So, high marks for me. Glad you're here, Wayne.
Reed?
Yeah, again, just not big on the whole public review. We met and I went over everything with you. I do think the ideas you brought for getting Riverwalk moving were fantastic. You know, for our first year, I think it's been an interesting one for sure. You've handled staffing issues and had a lot of turnover, and you've somehow managed to handle all of that. And clearly the team around you, all of our department heads, staff, they respect you. They like to work with you and for you. I've told people that I see as kind of the ultimate coach. You find players play and coaches coach, and you gotta know when to do which, and you have a really good job. You do a really good job at putting people in the right place to succeed and setting them up for that. And I think my favorite thing that I have is how responsive you are with ideas. When I bring you something, whether, whatever it may be, you'll run it up the pipe and figure out whether or not it'll work, and I appreciate that effort, because I know sometimes we see things, we want to put them in, we want, sunscreen, splash pads and everything else, and you never say no. You always look into it, and you take them seriously, and you're responsive to them, and I appreciate that. Appreciate the job you're doing. Very, very happy that I had you first.
Well, Wayne, I couldn't be more glad that we made the decision we made a little over a year ago to do this. You could have probably walked into a review meeting with us and said the words Riverwalk mic drop and walked out and been just okay with the review, because it has been an amazing direction that it's taken. But this really is so much more than that. I said earlier that we are a customer service organization first and foremost for our residents. I honestly believe that, and that attitude has to start at the top, and I appreciate the fact it does with you. We talked about different goals that you had in your first year, and getting a leadership team in place that we can move forward with. You've done that, some from promoting within, some through a great deal of agony with a proper selection process. Nothing's perfect, nothing always works out, but you've hit on a very large number of them, and I'm very pleased as I take a look, and we talked about where you are with your department heads now versus a year ago. A lot of progress, and we hope that continues. We talked about how that will drill down through the rest of the organization moving forward, but appreciate the fact that you're oriented towards achieving the goals that we talked about, and I look forward to the fact that next year maybe we'll have another 4-hour conversation at your review. But it was lengthy, but we talked about a whole lot of different things, covered a lot of ground philosophically speaking, and I really didn't think we'd spend that much time, because we communicate. We spend a fair amount of time together as it is, but recapping the last year and thinking about all we've done and as much ground as we've covered, it was significant, and I just want to say thank you. Keep up the good work. Wayne?
So I've worked in local government for 31 years, not as young as some of the people up here, and but I have never had in 31 years a more rewarding year than I had this year. I can safely say that there has never been more fun doing what I do. I didn't know when I was younger that it would be that much fun to be a city manager, but you get to learn about a lot of stuff, and I can tell you there's a core group of leadership here. So Tim, Sue, Lynn, Rob, and there are a lot of these people have been with me since back when I first started here, and then we have built the leadership team around them, and you've got extremely proud of the public safety leadership that we've brought in, your core group of finance and HR that are driving the organization. Some of the people are even within their first couple months, and you sit in the department head meetings and you feel like this has been the same team together for a decade. And so I expect to continue, even though I might look a little older than I was when I first started here. I feel like I'm a young kid early in my job, and I appreciate the opportunity that you all gave me, and look forward to many more years in the future continuing to build the city.
Council, you good with the same recommendation that I made for compensation as for the city attorney, and having that same conversation at the same time on that same night?
Yes.
We can do that. July? Okay. Yep. Wayne, do you have anything else to report this evening?
No, sir.
Excellent report, thank you. With that, council committee reports. First Step Shelter.
Nothing new from last update.
Okay. Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce. We met with chamber leadership last week. Talked about a couple of things. One, I kind of challenged them. I was shared a nice, beautiful pamphlet the mayor of Ormond Beach had at a score banquet that they use for businesses in Ormond Beach to doing business in Ormond Beach. Is a wonderful thing, and they're going to sit there and look at it and see if we can't do something of similar design for us. The other thing that they're talking about is they have chamber leadership coming up, and we discussed filling some of those positions internally with people of Port Orange.
What, can you say that again? What are they doing?
They do leadership class every year.
No, but I'm saying before that you were talking about this.
Oh, I was at the SCORE end of year awards banquet.
Oh, okay.
And that's what the Ormond Beach mayor was, and he shared what they do. And I am a believer in stealing good ideas from other people.
Sure.
And that was a whopping good one on the part of Ormond Beach, and I'd love to see if we can't recreate that. I think there is some irony in that today is the summer solstice, and taking advantage of the longest day of the year, we had our longest meeting of the year. With that, everybody have a great night. July 4th is coming up. Get ready.